Hello, everybody. Welcome on this wonderful Valentine's Day. We hope you all have fun dates, even on your own, but otherwise, you now have a date with us because me and Crash are going to be bringing you the Duos Qualifier number two. Already had one yesterday. It happened off stream due to, us testing a little bit with the bug that's going on. But today, we're happy to bring you it actually on stream. You're going to see all the games happening, six in total, three before, three after halftime. And then we're gonna go see who else is qualifying other than the teams that qualified yesterday. But Crashy, are you ready?
I am ready. I'm ready. We got the new graphics. Everything looks nice and clean, and we have some pretty interesting teams in here. There's a lot of teams we were just talking about it off stream that I
Hmm.
am not familiar with, and we're also playing a duos format, which we haven't seen in quite a bit. So it's going to be interesting to see how all of these teams come together, what kind of strategies come out, because we've seen a lot of squads, we've seen a lot of solos, but not a whole lot of duos. So even for me, I'm actually going to be coming up in next week's qualifier. I'm going to be playing in that. So I'm scouting out the competition while I'm watching. And unfortunately, we weren't able to watch yesterday's qualifier, but we do have the confirmation that Death and T-Fall were the first place winners of that qualifier. I'm not sure. I'd have to look back at the rest of the list, but congratulations to Death and T-Fall just as a community update. But yeah, new
Hmm.
graphics, new mode. It's going to be a fun time for sure.
For sure. Code 11, number two. World Tier was number three. C7 chess, so it's kind of like chess, seven chess. I don't know, whatever they want to call themselves. Next to Lino, Overdose, Box Jellyfish number seven, and Militia number eight. I think that's already too many to have qualified from that, but I think at least the top five are
Yeah,
through because I
top
think we're
five.
doing
Yeah.
15. That's a Steph B file, Colt Levin World Tier 7 Ches. Yeah, next to Lino. That's what we got. But yeah, we're gonna go into this one with, like you said, a lot of teams, a lot of players that we might either not have seen a lot of. We definitely haven't seen a lot of them in a duos format since it's been so. It's been back not that long, and we haven't really done that much competitively with it. But there are definitely notable names in here. And the big jump out for both of us, I think, when we looked at this was G3, got
Hmm.
Chaos NY and Megaverse coming at it. Now, those are, I would say, quite the favorites to take this away. But there are some other duos out there that could be doing very well. We have the Dark Bakers and Majin, Team Silent Kill. We have Little Hustle and Brimer, Galaxy tiered, SYGs coming out with Oxio and AMV. And there's like plenty of others that could just come out here and make a splash. So I don't think it will be a clear this is the top five. I think there will definitely be some skirmish in that mid range, that numbers five through 10, especially. But there might be a larger gap between the top few teams. That's always possible.
Yeah, and I'm thinking the same way. And just for the sake of saying, G3 kind of a notable team, not only because they're just a solid squad that has come out, in the past that we've seen,
Sure.
but Megaverse coming off of a tournament win from Solos, so definitely kind of in that
Hmm.
hot seat. He's got that reputation behind his back. He's one of the best stone shapers, if not the best stone shaper, in the game right now. And so we're definitely paying a lot of attention to them. But again, it's going to be interesting to see exactly how the other placements fall in line because I think that I can definitely make a prediction about maybe top two, maybe top three if I'm feeling bold. But there's going to be a lot of wiggle room, and with 6 games and only 4 of them being scored, we should see some placements jumping around quite a bit.
For sure. And there's so much more to talk about as well. Because, like we said, it's been so long since we've had proper competitive duos going on. I mean, even the scrim we did this week on Tuesday, I think, was very hard to actually work with because, well, it was pretty much
Yeah.
just hard to get the queues going correctly because it was like prime time. Um, so this might actually be the first time we see proper competitive duos in which everyone gets into a lobby. And keep in mind, they play 6 games. 4 of them will actually be scored, so 2 of them are like the throwaway games they can get. And because it's Valentine's Day, we're expecting a lot of Ruby Ruby growth.
Oh, is that right?
Growth. I can't even get through that with a straight face. I'm sorry, guys. I had to see it. It's possible though. I mean, there's been with all these shrines that have been popping up around the map. It's gonna be those might be the hot contested spots, depending on which classes everyone wants to run. But it's still a wide open map, and depending on where the teleportation circles go, there's a lot of places you can potentially land still.
I find it hilarious that Sawtooth gets the Stone Shrine, considering like that's where
Hmm.
Megaverse likes to land, and so it's basically Stone Tooth Mountain revived
Yeah.
into a Stone Shaper like paradise. But we're gonna be jumping into game one, and look at this, the action is already starting off right off the bat down here in this like Mossburn Bogmore like region. Got a little bit of fighting down here. DJ Live Life 104 just trying to skirt away, but this starting loot definitely not the best situation to have, but an interesting build at that. We got some ambi in the game right now. I don't think this is one of our qualifier
I don't
teams, but
think so.
nonetheless,
No.
just looking at it nonetheless. So we'll see if DJ Live Life can live. Oh, nope. Nope, unfortunately not. But Raikkoda in the kill feed already, a little hustle grabbing himself what looks like a couple as well. So already skirmishing back and forth quite a bit inside this game. And we have Vovo Turbo playing some conduit, pretty common conduit build. We'll see what's going around the map as it's already cut down to 29 players.
That's a very fast drop. I mean, imagine there's 42 players that drop in a game. It's just gone. Like it's just disappeared. Half of it almost gone. Quick early start, and I mean, a lot of that must have to do with new drop spots being popularized because of those new shrines, because of those locations that people want to run. There's certain gauntlets that are just so popular on that offhand or even as the main class that will just have teams fighting over them. And that early game risk is something that a lot of teams are willing to take. We're going to jump in straight over to G3 over here. You already can see Megaverse running the Stone Shaper Chaos on the Pyromancer. They're under a bit of hot fire, but it looks like they're going to be okay. The Dragonfire might pop soon, though. Megaverse and Chaos both losing a lot of HP here, but they still fine. They're still moving around. They're still communicating, but they have been split off now. It's a pure 1v1 from on both sides. Chaos loses his. Megaverse still going. Let's actually get the Birdman uh, disruption. So it's a 1v1 to finish off this fight. Darkbreakers gets Programmer 69 in the meantime, but this is close. Megaverse does get that eventually, but that could have gone another way because you see how low that HP bar is. That's really just a one-shot difference.
Yeah, and that's going to be PMD, going to be falling down Sansa and Birdman at the hands of Megaverse and Chaos. And, I'm actually really curious. I wonder if they went on ahead and contested Ruby here. Maybe their drop was looking a little bit too stacked, or maybe they like quickly rotated down because this is a qualifier. Getting those kills, getting those exiles, the damage points is definitely really important. And now, just looking at that kill feed, Darkbreaker's getting some work done himself, and it looks like the game is already cut down to 23 players. So literally about half the entirety of the lobby is cut down, but it's still like early game, so a lot of off spawn fights in this game number one here in this qualifier.
Really, and I mean, again, a lot of that might have to do with teams just really wanting to go for those for those standard drops that the shrines are now providing, because it's not even like they're drops that shrines that are in odd locations. They're in very central locations where people really want to go all over the time anyways. Some of them are on the far edge of the maps, like think of Banehelm, which often doesn't even get a teleportation circle with the Frost Gauntlet. But now we're going to be seeing the next fight going on. Chaos and Megaverse straight away into the next engagement. They have been healed up, but we're still looking at Chaos with his long-range ice lances here at a green belt. So not the greatest survivability, especially if you look at it. But he does have the Thirsty. It's a beautiful Frost Lance in the middle of that storm. Now tries to hit another one. Tries to get onto the top of this player. Hits another Frost Lance because, of course, Chaos is going to do that. Megaverse in a lot of trouble, though. Really needs some help here from his teammate. And Chaos is going to provide that, but they're both dropping health fast. You can see how much harder it is in duos. There's so much more attention on a singular player than it would be in trios. And even in solos, where you can sometimes just run away because there's more space going on. And we're going to see Chaos, again, try and follow up on this player, because they did take down Punisher. But this Rift almost gets taken. They get him just in time. I am Scotty. You're going to have to try again in the next round, because this is the one where Chaos and Megaverse might just get away with it.
Yeah, Chaos and Megaverse already got themselves 4 exiles, of which Megaverse has actually confirmed all of them. We've moved over to Insomniac Panda, and a little bit of wind spam coming out. Unfortunately, not going to be able to stay alive there. That's Darkbreakers, playing the Breakers build, but the fight is not over. He's going to be repositioning quickly with that flight. You do see that lightning coming out from his teammate on Majin, and they are just looking to completely dominate this player. That's Globros goes down. So Majin, Darkbreakers already presumably have at least, anywhere between like 5, 6, maybe 7 kills, somewhere in that range, because they have been in the kill feed. And that's going to be a nice little duo composition. You see Darkbreakers on that Focus Mana Fervor, and I have to imagine that Majin is going to be playing, very, very similar kind of setup with that Conduit.
Definitely. That's Team Egg White that just gets exiled by the Darkbreakers and Majin. I'm liking the diversity we've seen in builds so far. Still, there's a lot of Stone Shaper going on because we do know that in team modes, the Stone Shaper can often be a very tanky frontliner because of that extra stone skin, because of the mobility, because of the just the clone range explosions. But it's fun to see what the other classes that they're running with. What's the second one? Is it more range? Is it a little bit closer as well? Conduit, definitely an interesting choice, and I would love to see how that plays out further on. Meanwhile, G3 is also again in the exile feed. Get Phobo Turbo out of it, who had been doing really well this round, but has finally been exiled. And we're on Joshua, and that would be, I forgot who Joshua is playing with right now. I have it on my list, of course, and I can't really read it. It's Autrix. There we go, Joshua and Autrix. So this would be IDK, I guess. So. See what they do. A lot of Frost Lances being able to be shot out, and that's of course still a very popular gauntlet. They're not even running the Frostborn class, but they can just do this. Just shoot at range. Make sure they put up their firewall shields. But they are third partying here, so it's kind of fine.
Yeah, long range third partying, and actually just based on their positioning, they actually have the zone up here. It looks like because you don't see the little dotted line that they have to leave to. So it's going to be an interesting zone, at least in zone number 1. But also, I think looking at it, maybe Sir Squisho might have filled in for Autrix off of our list, so might be a small little bit of an update there because I definitely do see Josh is going to be playing with Squisho here, but we will see what's going on because 14 players. This is another one mana class. I think the last time me and you casted together, we were saying how quickly some of these games have just been cut down, and it looks like we're seeing that kind of repetition, and that's kind of the product of the format that we have here in competitive, where there is a good amount of weight on getting yourself some exiles and damage, and these players, both Sir Squisho and Josh, are going to be playing this long range battle. They can take their time with this. They both have these offhand frost gauntlets, and they're just seeing if they can grab themselves potentially a disruption, an exile, or at very least maybe a little bit of damage.
Yeah, you can already see they're fighting near this new frost shrine that's up there in the north. Nice fireballs going up in these toxic puddles, making sure they can potentially get some dragonfire damage out, get some at least a lot of disruption. Because if you want to go down that hill, and you have all those puddles in the way. You might be slowed down, you might be corroded a little bit. It's exactly what Joshua and Sir Squisho want from you. They do have the high ground as well. I mean, if anyone wants to get close to them, they can just stand on these mountains around Banehelm and fire down damage from above, whether it's toxic, whether it's fire, or whether it's frost lances. They're in a place to do some damage, and damage is what they're doing. You can see it. They're just carpeting this entire area, with as much resources as they can. You'll love to see it. Joshua's not really hitting anything. As I say, of course, the frost lance just goes straight into the face of an enemy right there. I just don't know who they're firing at, because I know it's not G3. They're nowhere near this area right now. At least they shouldn't be. But there's a fair few teams it could still be, because like you said, 13 players in the lobby. That's at least 7 teams.
Yeah, and looking at it here now, we can finally see Brimer and Lil Hustle. Looks like Brimer and Lil Hustle actually, just based on the kill feed, were able to take out a couple of players. That's J Dot and Arnando. I'm not sure. Can't exactly read it, just with that fading kill feed. But yeah, so a couple players here off that north end, and they're really like kind of holding them in this position. I'm not sure. It looks like they're probably still in the zone, or they just want to rotate over here off like the north side of the map, head their way east a little bit if they can. And just looking at the build, we have actually seen so much diversity, at very least in competitive play, when it comes to Stone Shaper. We have the Runic Fervor, kind of like, that's more of like a throwback to like original Stone Shaper competitive builds that, I was seeing off of launch. We have Focus Mana Fervor, which is more of like a Darkbreaker specific build that he really likes to run, kind of a high damage mod Stone Shaper build. And then presumably Megaverse is going to be playing that Runic Dexterity with Spring Step, so high mobility. So we're going to be moving over, and we do have ourselves back on Darkbreakers. It looks like there's a little bit of action here. They're kind of finding themselves in a bit of a rotation. Darkbreakers, they're using that offhand wind gauntlet with the Stone Shaper. Definitely a breakers build, not something you see too often. Also using that flight rune, and there's so many players in this area. I love this decision from Breakers to just try to get himself away from that congestion. If he can, he's going to be able to continue, but this is still fighting and damage that they're able to get here in Mana Class. So him and Majin keeping themselves really close together, and even though this is kind of a crazy jamble and mash of players, they're very coordinated in terms of what they want to do, what their goal is, and right now that's just to stay alive.
I do still like the way that they're positioning themselves. They don't take the max distance on that flight. You're just going to try and third party this zone edge fight, which is exactly what you want to do. I mean, gatekeep them a little bit. Be in a position where you are holding the position they have to go through. They have to go through you to get to safety. You're probably going to be able to do a lot of damage, and Darkbreaker's is trying to do exactly that. Is getting assaulted from behind, but luckily Majin is ready to help them out. Nice lightning strike, and that's going to be the Darkbreakers and Majin picking up another disruption and exile at that. Actually, that was a solo player. Now we have 10 players in the lobby. That means it's 5 teams at least, probably 5 teams. I don't think there's any solo players around right now. And look at that accretion. I love that effect. Is that Grok growing in the air? It's beautiful.
Yeah, growing in the air, getting propelled by that wind shear as well. Darkbreakers really has some strong poke potential out of this build, and then the burst damage that comes out is just insane. Whether you're close range with those wind shears, you're able to land one of those massive shockwaves that you might be able to see. Again, you see him kind of throwing that out there. They're just playing positioning. They're chilling here on the low ground. Now we're able to find ourselves over toward Megaverse again. Yes, he is going to be rocking that runic dexterity, and look at this mana class. What is that spirit talent? That's going to be the Vital Stone. Might be the first time I've ever seen Vital Stone in competitive. We're going to see how they're deciding to play around that. Now, here's the thing. You can kind of break it down a little bit. We saw Chaos Perspective earlier. He's running the Thirsty. Megaverse is running that Vital Stone. So you have to assume that they've been funneling those spirit talents into Megaverse. And had he gotten that Vital Stone popped, maybe they would give that next Spirit Scroll over to Megaverse to reset that. So Megaverse, he gets a little bit of pressure on his back, but it does look like he's just going to take his time, get a little bit of a reset here. He does have that large safeguard. I'm surprised to not see him use that right away, but he's just going to go ahead and heal up a little bit. Might just be carrying that to hand over to Chaos at some point.
That's always also one of those potions you want to use when you actually get tapped on your health, which is happening now. So you could potentially use it now, but he's still choosing to hold on to it. Nope, there he goes. I think that's a large one, right? Oh, it might actually be the small one that he's using. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see later. Squisho and Joshua throwing out a lot of damage on the side as well. It's been a while since we've seen a disruption happen, because these teams are all playing at such a nice distance from each other, just being safe but being effective with their damage. This is where the damage numbers really start racking up. It's not that mid game, it's that late game where everyone keeps healing, keeps being safe. Nice ice lands on the team down there, and this high ground advantage could really play into their favor. The mobility is trying to be used to get up here, and that is a nice lightning strike combo with that tornado. Love to see it. Sir Squisho in a bit of trouble, but actually is not really going to be feeling it that much. Just got shocked a bit. And they're looking at all these angles. That's the problem, though. There are like 3 or 4 teams looking at them, and now this high ground's going to get assaulted. Both of the players under a lot of assault here. Lightning strikes left, right, and center. The Tundra might be helping you out, but flash freeze you can do, but it only extends your suffering. Joshua already down, and Squisho just gets disrupted by Majin. Nice lightning bolts to finish that off, but now they're in trouble themselves. The Darkbreakers and Majin both on flesh. Majin actually needs to heal here and barely has any met resources. Crashy, they might be in trouble.
Yeah, they might be in trouble here, but you're looking at potentially like a top 3 finish for sure, and lots of exiles, lots of damage. Megaverse still in the kill feed, gets a disruption on the Little Hustle. Raikoto did fall at the hands of Megaverse as well, so we have 6 players left alive in total. Presumably 5 are standing as we move over to Chaos's perspective. Using that large safeguard now, finally has that triple thirsty, so that's going to be bleeding over into the side of Megaverse as well, and they have been able to just keep themselves alive. They're trying to play that positioning. Megaverse going on that offensive. He does have that high mobility Stone Shaper ability. Chaos getting a little bit of a shockwave on his back. That might be Darkbreaker's. Chaos getting very, very low. Yes, he's going to fall at the hands of Darkbreakers. And Megaverse still going to be dropping Darkbreakers as well. So back-to-back fights. I believe this might cut down to a 1v1. I think it's Megaverse versus Majin. If I had to call it the lightning strikes, that's going to be the secondary strikes coming out towards Megaverse. The Vital Stone is popped. Is the Vital Stone enough? Yes, it is. Megaverse wins it with the Vital Stone. I didn't quite see the actual final kill resolve and happen, but whatever the case may be, he was able to pick that up. He pops the Vital Stone. The trap card is activated, and yeah, they take game number 1. That's going over to G3.
Very nicely done, honestly. Just a lot of damage coming out from them, of course, and a lot of exiles. But there were quite a few other teams that did very admirably, at to say the very least. There's a lot of spread out action in terms of who got a lot of exiles, who got a lot of disruptions, a lot of damage out. So even though they won, there might not be that big of a difference between the scores right now, which is good to see. We gotta actually get quite a close lobby, but we're gonna see how this Vital Stone build is going to progress. Because of course, if it's a 1v1 like that, and you both lose your health at roughly the same rate, you would think that a Vital Stone would net you that advantage, especially because you've got a bit of speed now when you actually pop it. So might be something that we're going to see later on. It did look like Megaverse actually got disrupted at the same time. So there you see they lost health at the same amount of time, and then all of a sudden Megaverse still has the Vital Stone, so that's why they win. Because
Yeah,
it's technically
and
an extra. I don't know how many HP you get back for it, but it's an extra HP you technically have.
so the crazy thing about it too is if you really think about it, like given this
Hmm.
scenario, it got pretty close to a situation where maybe the vital stone wouldn't have been super useful because he could have popped. Majid might have been alive. He might have been able to land another fireball on him or something and just knock him out again. But in another scenario, if you really think about it, if chaos stays alive a little bit longer and chaos is able to kind of take like a visual aggro when Megaverse gets exiled or disrupted, he goes into vital stone and has like a little bit of ability to float around while there's still some of that teammate pressure from chaos. So I'm not sitting here saying that vital stone is viable. I'm really really not, but I'm saying that it's not entirely useless. And I think that we're seeing a little bit
No.
of experimentation. This is definitely not something that they've had in the pocket probably for too long. I'm sure this is definitely the trace feelings of like, let's see what this talent can do.
It's definitely situationally useful. Like I said, it got popped in that last fight. Had it not been popped, Megaverse would probably have gone down and they would have not won that round. How much of a difference that actually makes in the overall score, we don't really know. I mean, we could go back and try and like retrace those steps and recalculate it. But it's very hard to say that that will actually be the difference maker in the end. For those who are wondering, my camera is acting up apparently, or someone's internet's acting up. We will see. It's all fine as long as we're still here and I'm still audible. I think we're gonna be a okay. But yeah, I mean, what we were expecting kind of happened, right? G3 did well; they won. Silent Kill came close. Teams like, I mean, who else did we see in those later zones? I think IDK was doing decently. Who's carrying who was coming out. Um,
Yeah, toward the
Galaxy
end, I
tiered, Lil
saw
Also and Brimer, they were there.
I saw
Uh,
Rykota toward the area. Yeah, so yeah, like you
yeah,
said, who's
who's
carrying
carrying
who?
who?
Yeah, they were
Yeah,
definitely making their way toward the end. And yeah, I mean, another thing to just say about that game is that it just cut down so fast. We actually had
yeah.
a pretty decent sized zone when it was like about 10 players. And there was a certain section where we had Joshua and Sir Squisho. And they were sitting on that high ground, and we were talking about it a little bit. And it was like, hey, last circle, you have the high ground, that's great, but you're also like dead center of the circle, and everybody was looking at them. So,
Everyone was.
good positioning in terms of the verticality of what was available, but also just a tough position to hold. So definitely something to think about. How some of those edge teams where, they're really the ones that are pushing inward kind of in a sense have an advantage just based on, like visual aggro and who's all looking at what team, especially when you have someone like Majin, who's, using the lightning gauntlet or playing conduit, and then someone like Chaos who has like the offhand frost. He was getting some knocks in that end game as well. So yeah, definitely something to
Yeah.
think about.
A lot of lightning storms were thrown at them. That was really interesting to me because you don't see a lot of lightning storms being used in general. So that tornado lightning strike combo was very, very cool to see, very in action, and it was hitting a lot as well. For me, it was also fascinating to see, like, yeah, you put yourself in the middle on that high ground. So you think one or two teams would at least come at you, but it kind of felt like an unspoken thing that everyone else who wasn't on the high ground at the same time was like, we're gonna get them all together. They're just gonna be gone. We don't want them to be on the high ground. And I think Sir Squisho and Joshua were in a position where they were like logically thinking, okay, so if we're on the high ground and they're on the edge, they're going to be fighting each other, and we can just shoot like ice lances at people like we've been doing all game. Didn't quite work out that way because they shot one team, but then they also shot another team, and then they also shot another team. So it might have been that they actually shot themselves in the foot, or well, shot enemies in the foot, which then turned everything on them. But yeah, positioning is definitely not everything. That's definitely the moral of that story. That being said, though, if you want to keep updated on the scores that are actually happening right now, because they are being filled in, of course, you can always go to the Element Discord, type in exclamation mark scores, and you'll actually get a bot response that tells you the current scores that are already input in the system. Might not be there just yet because we're still very early in the games, obviously. But yeah, could be coming in handy later. And of course, it's also a great place if you want to sign up to more events that we're doing. If you want to just join scrims, which you don't need to sign up for, you can literally just join whenever they're happening. Or anything else, Spellbreak competitively, just join the community.
I'm experimenting with these new designs because like now I have new things I can point at. Like, hey, exclamation point
Yeah,
scores, exclamation point YouTube. Like,
it's
it's
right,
good stuff.
right, like
Yeah,
there,
back over there. Oh, was that a dab?
there.
It's up.
No, no,
It's up.
it's
It's
me,
up
it's me, it's
there.
me pointing at things.
Yeah, me
Yeah,
too. It's up there.
because I'm not. Yeah, yeah, that's you.
See, look, everybody's excited.
And of course, if you want to be super generous, if you want to be that person that's like, you know what, I have way too much money, we always appreciate if you want to support Elements, if you want to support competitive spell break, it's right there, below on your screen. You see the people that have been generous in the past. Of course, no mandatory. We're not going to require you. We'll still provide you the content, but hey, might be a bigger prize pools, might be better production value, like these beautiful overlays that you're getting right now. Like those are all things that we're investing in. And yeah, we can only invest if there's actually funds to invest with. So,
Yeah,
not
shout
a
out.
not a cry for help, but definitely a shout out for everyone who has already donated.
Yeah, and shout out to the entire Element team and everybody that plays and stuff. I mean, I say that like every time we're on the broadcast, but it's true. I mean, anybody that's
Yeah,
watching, anybody that is a part of the crew that puts it all together, from the players to the viewers to the staff itself. It's a great group effort for the entire community. It's
for
definitely,
sure.
would suck if we didn't have this, but for now, I've entered into Rainbow Land, but I still look good. You know what
Nirvana.
I mean? I
You're in
just
Nirvana,
look.
man. Oh, you're
I'm
there.
looking so good. But speaking of looking good, it seems like G3 is in form when it comes to duos, and
Yeah,
the addition of their new third, which is Death, that I've been seeing. We'll have to see how that pans out in the future. But we do know Death, starting to do well with playing those duos with T-Fall. They were able to get themselves qualified, not only just get themselves qualified, but get themselves in that first place position in Qualifier 1. But we have 5 more games here in Qualifier 2. And like we said, we could kind of predict a little bit like the top 2 teams, and that looks like we definitely have those scores sitting in that place. But for everybody else, man, top 5 is up for grabs, and I'm looking forward to
it
see
really
who is going
is.
to get themselves in that position.
Yeah, and of course, a good reminder to everybody: we're gonna have 3 qualifiers total. So one was yesterday, 2 is today, 3 is next week. When we're also doing, I think, the final straight that Sunday. I'm not entirely sure, but definitely we're going to be. If you want to look at that, it's also the event calendar. It's also in the
Dude,
Discord, so once
they're
again, it's right up there, like
they're roasting my water
above
bottle.
Precious
Don't
Head.
don't roast
Yeah.
my water bottle. I'm trying to get my water in. It's not a satellite.
It's all great. Anyways, so we've seen one game now. We're gonna still have 5 to go. Of course, obviously, at some point my camera will keep responding, and we're actually gonna be like looking at like more games. So far we've seen a lot of diversity in what teams want to run. Stone Shaper seems to still be that very important frontliner build that we're doing. But it hasn't been something that everyone's been running for the sole reason that you don't need someone to necessarily go in there. The third party, the space that you're working with in duos is so much bigger and so much more comparable to solos than it is to trios a lot of the time that might also be a reason why we see the lobby clear out so fast because there is more to fight.
Yeah, I mean, there's more teams, right? And
Yeah,
the more teams there are, that means the more contesting off spawn potentially as well. And
yeah,
it's interesting. I think in solos and duos, you tend to have a little bit more room with what builds and like what compositions you can run in a sense too, especially depending on like where you're landing, how contested you are. There's just a lot of potential to come out. So we'll probably see a good mix of classes. Tempest, still something of a class that I feel like is a little bit underrepresented. But the thing about Spellbreak, I was literally thinking about this myself recently. The thing about Spellbreak is that when it gets to competitive time, things slow down a bit. And you start to see a lot of ranged. You start to see a lot of people that are poking first, holding positioning. So you see a build like Megaverse, for example, and when they were up on that hill, he was drinking that safeguard. That's kind of the position of the game for him, the timing of the game where, hey, look, I need to be patient. Like me as a Stone Shaper, I've got an offhand fire. I'm not really doing anything right now. I'm being patient. I'm trying not to over peak. I don't want to, make any decisions that's going to get me taken down. But it's Chaos's turn to just sit at that range and poke from a distance. So there's definitely some viability in terms of long range gauntlets. The the frost, the lightning that you want to have in terms of just scoring some of that damage without having to be over committal. But you don't see a lot of that with Tempest. So a Tempest player, if they do jump into the tournament, if somebody does decide to play on that role, they're going to have to do that in a way that they can either be a very aggressive team to get in and try to find that damage, those exiles, or if they could, pair up with somebody that can kind of fill that role like we do see with Megaverse. So definitely an interesting thought. Definitely something that I want to see more Tempest. I do, especially with some of the buffs. The updraft is now fixed. Things like that. It's going to be interesting going forward to see how much of a role Tempest will play in competitive Spellbreak.
Yeah, for sure. And it looks like we're getting close to that game two actually starting at some point. Sorry for the breaks in between. We're still working with a little bit of that duos bug that we had earlier in the week that we had yesterday too. We should be able to get lobbies at a reasonable rate, but we might have to requeue quite a few times. That's the only downside. Looking like we're going to get one soon, though. So don't worry, gameplay is coming your way. And of course, we're still going to have at least five. Well, we're going to have five more games coming after, including the next one. Um, but yeah, I'm looking forward to it. It's been a good one so far, and I feel like these teams are going to be putting up a close fight. I don't think this is going to be the quick rollover that we've seen in other tournaments, that we've seen in other combinations of things. And to me, that's very exciting. To me, it's always better when you don't know who's going to win from day one.
Yeah, I mean, I completely agree. If you have a super even qualifier, it definitely shakes things up. It builds that storyline of like, hey, look, maybe we're a few games in, we got to start making some decisions. Where do we, do we get more aggressive? Do we try to play it more passive and keep the consistency so we can, earn ourselves, skirt ourselves into that top five position? But at the end of the day, whenever you're trying to get to the top of the leaderboard, which inevitably is the goal, say you qualify through, then you got to start getting some of those exiles and those damage points in. So it's something to think about. The play styles changed, the ping changes from NA to EU, and ultimately we have to just see how everybody responds. Now, I think for me personally, it's nice to see like the variation of different teams. Like we've already seen a few different classes come out. I think we've seen almost every class come out except for Tempest so far, at least from what I've seen.
I think we maybe have had one Tempest in there or something, but yeah, definitely. I know everything else has been there. And it's always weird to say like Frostborn has never played because the thing is, we see a lot of Frost Gauntlet. It's just not always a Frostborn class because the Gauntlet's just so valuable to a lot of teams. Like you said, that distance, that poking, that positioning, what their playstyle is all about, what the tempo of these games often turns into. It's really just made for the Frostborn offhand. That's kind of what it comes down to. We're currently getting some scores in as well, so we'll be able to update you on those soon. And it does indeed seem like G3 is going to take the lead after one game, and Silent Kill will be number two. Galaxy Tiered might be number three, but it might also not be. We'll see where they're at when they actually get the scores fully updated. But we're seem to be dropping into game number two right now. So yeah, we'll get that gameplay to you in a couple of seconds probably.
Yeah, hopefully so. I'm definitely looking forward to it. I was thinking about that Frostborn comment, and I agree. You don't always see a lot of Frostborn. I do think that the class is in a pretty decent spot. Just talking about the
Yeah,
class, but you do see a lot of Frost offhand because it's just such a good long range option. A lot of burst damage potential, has an amazing sorcery to go along with it, and it feels like whenever it comes to Frostborn specifically, you always have to find like the specialized Frostborn players that play it. You see like the
yeah,
Solar Bears, you see Diego Contra, you see Marcus, aka Apostle, even like for example, I mean, not to this feels awkward to say, but like my teammate Ross that we're going to be playing in next weekend's qualifier, he plays a lot of Frostborn, so you do
yeah.
definitely see those like specialized players that tend to lean into their role. But hey, we have game number two already starting, already a disruption on the field that I can see. We have Wonderful and Lovell, Stone Shaper, and Pyro jumping into this fight here at the Himwood Ruins. He's going to be chasing down this player. The damage is coming out. Are they going to be able to pick him up? Most likely so. It's going to be a 2v1. This is going to be some quick points coming out. Arnando and Pro Gamer 69 are going to be falling down. Rykota finding himself in the kill feed as well, and Fluff and Nudes getting disrupted along with it.
It's interesting because they're not actually in the list of the teams for this qualifier, Wonderful and Level. So we'll see whether they might take away a game which they're not even supposed to be. Oh, it's supposed to be, or they're not qualifying for. Could be cool to add them to the sheet just for the fun of it. But for now, we're gonna be seeing whether the competition is going to be hard enough for them that they, don't actually get away with it.
So
They
just
will at
on
least
that
be deleting some
note,
exiles.
I do
Yeah.
think that they actually are in this qualifier, and my only reason for saying that is because Lavelle said that he had crashed in game one, so we may not have the most updated list of player sheets. There might have been a
Oh,
sub in
interesting.
or an addition at the last minute, but I'm pretty sure that they're going to be in this one. Nonetheless, it looks like Insomnia Panda is going to be down. It's going to be Lego Boob, the last one left alive, and
Butternuts. Yeah.
he's got some tough terrain ahead of him. I don't know, an uphill battle for sure in terms of just being able to stay alive and grab some points. Most likely, whenever you see a situation like this, you can probably chalk it up to being, one of the throwaway games that they'll have because we are only going to be scoring 4 of the 6 games in total. But nonetheless, he's going to just do his best. You never know. He might be able to grab a second place here and kind of rat his way around the map. G3 Chaos in the kill feed, grabbing himself a disruption. And we're going to see another probably pretty quick start to this one. So it looks like Megaverse going to follow that up, or Chaos and Megaverse going to find themselves a quick couple of exiles. But we will have to see where all these other, heavy hitting teams, the teams that are able to keep themselves, completely together, the full duo that stays alive, and what fights they're looking to take.
That's still it's still not as fast as last game. We still have 33 players alive. I think by this point we almost were we were under the 30 mark for sure, closing in on the 24 or something. So it's a bit of a slower start, but not necessarily turtle-like. So we're doing okay. Banehelm naturally under contention. Like we said, there's the Frost Shrine up there, which means that a lot of teams actually want to go here just to pick up a free rare Frost Gauntlet, which everyone basically uses at this stage. You see AMV under a bit of pressure actually got in Icelands in their face and now has to make sure that they have enough shield back because they do actually have a belt. And I'm going to be seeing whether they actually can recover from this. Oxio also trying to fight all of this, but that is AMV being chased down, being shot, lightning strike on the face, actually manages to barely dodge that one. Tries to cut off the line of chase with a Toxic Cloud, but doesn't really seem to be able to do that. Oxio trying to get on top of the Chaser, and is able to do out some damage, but it's still AMV that's not really fighting back. All he's doing is running away, and now Oxio gets actually, ooh, that's not what you want to see. Gets disrupted. AMV, can you get away from this? Maybe get your teammate back up, or are you going to try and go for one of these rifts? I think AMV is going to go for a rift and maybe try and get away from this, but that might not happen. Nope, that is indubitably nasty. Actually, no, it was someone else. It was a quick exile feed. That was Joshua.
Sir
I think
Squisho, Sir Squisho and Joshua. Yeah, it definitely seems like they're going to be able to walk away from that. Yo, shout out to Jovan with the sub. Huge shout out to you. We appreciate the support. But yeah, so Sir Squisho, Josh are going to find themselves a couple of quick exiles here. And, I got to say, I'm a little surprised at the number of Pyromancer that we're seeing. We saw Lavelle on it. We're seeing Josh on it. Maybe this is an unpopular opinion, but not necessarily like the strongest class in the game, but definitely still a lot of representation. You see, Chaos definitely going to be a Pyromancer main, so still a lot of value in terms of being able to, spam out some of those fireballs, use that conflag to force positioning, and does, definitely deal a little bit in that AoE control. So now Josh going to be jumping into one of the mysterious rifts. We're going to see him flying back down. His teammate may be doing the same, and that's definitely something kind of new to us, right? We have to see how they manage their drops because they don't always fly into the zone at the exact same position. So it's an instantaneous on-the-fly decision that teams have to make when they decide to do that. But looking at this positioning right here, Josh might be able to find a snipe, not going to connect with that one, but a couple of players, a couple of teams directly in front of him have found themselves into a fight. And as far as I can tell, Josh is not with his teammates. So definitely an interesting position to be in. He might have to just go on ahead and look to reposition.
Yeah, I'm going to be seeing what that Pyromancer class indeed will do. Of course, one of the big advantages you do get from Pyromancer is that you can always put up a firewall to block some long-range snipes. It's very good as a shield mechanic, even though that doesn't really exist in the game. It's a barrier. Nice to have. And extra mobility, Firefly can sometimes help you. Nice Icelands and a finish off from Sir Squisho with a good toxic spray. Another 2 exiles that are coming their way, and that's a good thing because, of course, if you want to get up that leaderboard, if you want to rise in the ranks, you do actually have to get some exiles on the board. Not just damage and positioning will usually not get you there. And Sir Squisho and Joshua have been doing decently in the last game. We don't have the full scores just yet. We're trying to figure out like where everyone's landing with all of this. But it's looking okay for a lot of them. Megaverse and Chaos under a lot of pressure. Let's see if Megaverse actually still runs the Vital Stone, because I don't think we've seen their build for this round. Is losing a lot of life here. And they did actually get a disruption, I think, on somebody. No, it doesn't look like it. This is a third party that's coming in from Darkbreakers and Majin. And that could be an early exile. If they get booted out of the game this early, that's definitely going to be one of their throwaway games. So that might give a big lead back in. And Darkbreakers did finishes off that double, 2 exiles down. And that's a big jump for them. But of course, that means that the current number 2 team can actually make a jump towards number 1 just from this one game, because there's so much game left to play. There's so much points still up for grabs, at least in positioning, but also for exiles, also for damage. And Darkbreakers and Majin know that. They know what happened in the exile feed right there. They know what they just did, and they're probably going to be looking to capitalize very, very hard.
Yeah, I completely agree. And, you know, looking at the kill feed, it does look like Punisher and Sir Scotty were the ones that, you know, fell down to the hands of G3. So it looks like, you know, SK finding themselves in that third-party position immediately after that. And right as that fight, you know, was finishing up, Chaos was trying to, like, reposition. He found himself caught into a fire tornado. Now, I have to just assume that that's a combination of Lovel's offhand with Darkbreaker's offhand, you know, just kind of catching someone into a combination. Don't know if that was completely planned. Just looking at these players here, Wonderful going to be in a fight, and it does look like Lovell is going to fall and get disrupted by Raikkoda. So now Wonderful has to kind of reposition, is trying to move around the map, trying to preserve himself. 18 players left alive. You do see those ice lances coming. A lot of high ground, crazy positioning for this end zone, or at least this section of the end zone. Lavelle is going to get full finish there. So now Wonderful going to be tasked with trying to stay alive and get as many points as possible. So I definitely agree with you that this is looking potentially like a big game for SK, as they're going to be taking out their gigantic competition in that of G3 earlier on in the game. We do see Wonderful, you know, getting a little bit greedy here, but, you know, takes his time, grabs that free scroll, is going to go ahead and heal himself up a little bit, might be able to refill some of those potions and continue to move around. We'll see if he does it again. Was he going to go ahead and grab another spirit scroll? Might as well.
Yeah, why not, right? If it's there, just fill it up, and now you've got all your talents already sorted out. 17 players in the lobby. Wonderful looking raid. Is on his own though, because Lovell had been exiled. That's unfortunate. That's Wonderful just running away from more. Husk has still got 4 exiles on the board, and they've probably done a lot of damage. So even if they just get the positioning up, because this is still a fairly decent game, because of course your positioning counts when the last player of your team gets exiled, not the first one. That's great, because Wonderful's still alive, and 17 players in the lobby means you have a fairly decent placement already, but it could be much better. And that's why you don't see Wonderful engaging that easily. Just once the third party gets some more damage and maybe an exile here and there, they'll be fine. And Dubly Nasty and Troll Dentist, though, going to be in this... Troll Dentist, at least. We're going to be in this area right now trying to get something going. At least got the fortitude off of someone there. That's gone. But where will this go? And Dubly Nasty just with the conduits, throwing some lightning bolts out there. Not the biggest amount of damage at that range, but still damage you can hit, because it's relatively easy to do those. You can't really do that with toxic or fireballs, because they'll just miss. And I mean, again, I think they're in a good spot. I don't really see a reason for them to move anytime soon.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the zone is definitely holding a good position for them. You see that new zone shift has happened, and they actually still have that positioning. And Indubitably Nasty playing that conduit with the tracking talent, so is going to be able to call out and use that to their advantage, at least in terms of coordination and using it to stay together. Maybe, you know, catching some of these invis players or toxicologists out. You do see Little Hustle now running that standardized 2-2-2 tox build with the offhand frost. Has some knowledge in the pocket as well. Darkbreakers finds himself a finish, and it looks like Elda Gold is going to find himself a disruption and exile onto Zaxabar as well. Raikkoda still in the kill feed. Darkbreaker's grabbing another, and it looks like a lot of players are getting cut down very, very quickly. Now Brimer and Little Hustle are going to be pushing up this mountain. We'll have to see if Indubitably Nasty are still holding this position. Maybe they got bullied off. Whatever the case may be, we are going to find out very quickly. But Stone Shaper, Toxicologist, a pretty, a comfortable composition for them to run. Very good in the early game, very good in the late game. Now we are seeing that fight start to come to fruition. So this looks like a Little Hustle and Brimer have forced this position. So at very least, if they're not looking for a full chase, they have now scored themselves the best high ground in the map in the current zone.
Yeah, chasing another team away is exactly what they wanted to do. And this was a team that was shooting at them before. So they just rotated onto this high ground, take it over, take it away from Indubitably Nasty and Troll Dentist. And now they're going to be able to fire at these players, just riding around this fort, flying around, taking a new position. The circle is closing, so there'll be know what the new zone will be pretty soon. And right now, they just have free fire. It's great, shooting gallery. Let's go and get another ice lance in there, another boulder, another few toxic sprays. It's great. Little hustle. Can he actually hit one though? Because it's been a lot of firing, but not a lot of damaging. Maybe one will come out soon, but it doesn't look like it. It looks like just an attempt to get some extra damage in. But the teammate is going relatively deep, so maybe Little Hustle has to move anytime soon. This is going to be an exile, though. That is a fireball in the back of Wonderful. They're finally exiled. That team is gone. It's still a decent placement, but it could have been potentially a little bit better. Still, going to be a lot of damage coming on to Doubly Nasty. Darkbreakers just zapping him down with that lightning damage. Lightning bolts coming in, and well, Troll Dentist is not in a great spot either, honestly. He's on the flash right now in a 2v1. It's not one that you can easily win. Majin and Darkbreakers following down up on this lead. See the orbs flying around, see the damage flying around, and see the players running away with their runes. That's some nice shockwaves coming out from Darkbreaker, seeing them at a decent range. The zone is closing in, so they have to reposition because it's actually ticking quite well. It's not one you want to take for free. That's a nice follow-up from Darkbreakers with the wind cheers, though. Troll Dentist and Doobly actually down now. Darkbreakers following up on more. 8 players in the lobby, only 3 other teams. They're able to take some cover in this building, but not for long as they get ambushed by another player and they actually don't know what to do. The Dragonfire comes out. Darkbreakers under a lot of pressure, doesn't really know where to go, runs into a Toxic Cloud. 1 HP, barely gets into the zone, but still gets taken out. Majin, unfortunately, falls to the zone, and that is going to be their team eliminated. Darkbreakers and Majin out of this one. I think, yeah, they are. They're out. So that will be Lil Hustle, Brimer, and another team, another 2 teams trying to figure it out. Well, Brimer is already disrupted. We're looking at Fluff and Noodles and Raikoda making a big splash in this game. 4 exiles on Raikoda, maybe even more on Fluff and Noodles. And with these Fireballs and Fire Nados and a lot of health remaining, this is going to be Raikoda taking another disrupt down. The exile is going to be flying left, right, and center by Birdman. PMD taking a hit there as a team. And now, with Fluff and Noodles going down, this could be close. It's one more. Need one more exile because we know these other 2 players were out of it, but I think they picked each other up. This could be a 2 if you want to finish it out. Raikoda has no health left. That's going to be the exile. And the win from... Who was that left?
I
missed
didn't
it.
catch it. Yeah, I didn't catch
it
it.
went off my screen so quickly.
I didn't
Oh,
catch it.
oh
I'm
my
actually going to
lord.
look back at
I
it.
want to
But
know.
yeah, lots of players that were still left alive there. I know Brimer and Lil Hustle were there.
Yeah.
Potentially, Lil Hustle was actually the
It has
last
to
one
be
left
been them,
alive.
right?
And yeah,
Yeah.
I'm still watching it back. We're cut back at the position where Lil Hustle was just kind of hanging out on the edge. He was playing the toxicologist, had the double shadow step, so maybe able to buy himself a little bit of time. But yeah, Indubitably Nasty, Raikoda,
Sure.
they got pretty aggressive off of that tower. I forget what they're called, the Aegis Tower like positioning, and they were able to fight like over like the broken ruins, found themselves a couple of disruptions, but it looked like Fluff and Nudes got himself in a position that was just a little bit hard to get away from. So most likely Lil
sure.
Hustle might have been the one that walked away from it. I'm still watching it back because I'm so
It should have
very
been.
curious.
It should have
I
been
know,
because I know that we're the one team that was left. Actually, the other
yeah.
2, so it has to have been them. But it's a good stuff because they had 3rd place in the last game. They didn't get a lot of exiles and damage out of that, so their scores weren't incredibly high. But I know they had a few more exiles this time around. They win the lobby as well, so they're at least consistently placing high. We just hope that the damage of the exiles actually add up to lead to a good score. But the same thing goes actually for Fluff and Nudes and Raikoda. Who's carrying who? They did decently in terms of placement last game, but I know they did a lot more damage in exiles in this one. So they're going to be happy with that one. And I mean, still the biggest story is G3 going out that early to Silent Kill. So Silent Kill scoring a big lead over them, at least based on these 2 games so far. And that's a good start. And obviously, if you have 2 decent games to start off with, that only gives you more room for failure later, if you want it. Margin for error, as we prefer to call it, I think. But yeah, this is already the scoreboard changing a lot from last game, I feel like.
Yeah, and I was actually, watching it back again. PMD, I think they got themselves a third or a fourth place finish, so probably
Yeah.
catching themselves a little bit of a stride. Same thing with Raikkoda. He was able to get themselves up to toward that end game with a second place finish. I forget their team name, but yeah, Galaxy tiered Lil Hustle and Brimer. They were able to pick up that first place finish. So Lil Hustle kind of carrying it a little bit there at the very end. I believe I
Yeah.
don't know if Brimer was still alive at the end. I think that he was
I think it was
disrupted.
picked up. I think it
Oh,
might have
so
been picked
oh
up. He
wow.
was
So if he was
disrupted
picked up,
initially.
if he was
Yeah,
picked
because
up, that's even more crazy because that means that they were able to kind of like
yeah,
squeal away into a position while other teams are fighting and then get the win on top of that. So that's definitely going to
yeah,
be a nice potential third place spot to hold for Galaxy tiers. They're most likely going to be jumping up. But again, like you said, SK finding that, those exiles onto G3 early, it's not, like tournament and standings defining across the board, but what it does do is
not
it
yet.
forces,
Yeah.
yeah, not yet, but it does potentially force a throwaway game while they're on NA. So that is something to think about because they're going to have to keep their performance consistent on this last game of NA, but they're also going to have to probably carry a pretty decent performance at least in one game, maybe two going into EU. So not something that they can't do, of course, but definitely something to think about.
And it's something we haven't really explicitly mentioned, but it is indeed true. First three games we play are on the NA East server, and then we move over to the European West server. So that's going to happen after halftime in game 4, 5, and 6. But right now we still have game 3 to play on NA. So they still have a good chance to at least play on, their regular ping and get the value out of that. But we'll see if it will make a difference. We often do see it make a difference in terms of what classes players pick, in terms of how their performance generally goes. So I'd be excited to see what that changes in terms of finishes and exiles, etc. But with the teams that are winning games and like how they're winning games and how many exiles, etc., are coming out from different squads, it is very diverse so far. It's not been a clear cut. This is just the best team right now, and that's exciting to me again because you want to have that diversity. You want to not know who's going to win until the very last game, and we could be doing some number crunching later on to actually know.
Yeah, we'll definitely have to see. I mean, if you guys are wanting to keep up to date with the scores, definitely make sure that you're inside the Discord. But we're going to be moving here in just a bit into game number 3. Yeah, yeah. Up. Wait, no. I should use the other hand. Up here. Donate YouTube
There.
and Discord. I think is the other one. I forget already.
That's
But
the
hey,
other one. They
shout out,
keep
shout outs.
rotating. You'll be
Yeah.
fine. You can also type it in the chat. We have the exclamation marks there. So YouTube, Discord, and donate, and even scores, or to figure out what you're actually supposed to be doing to get the scores access. Don't be afraid to use those, and we'll show you some beautiful graphics as well when we finally get some scores in eventually. That will be after halftime, not right now because we're still filling in scores and we're just waiting until we get into the next game. In halftime, we actually have time to put those up for you. But yeah, it's been diversity, it's been explosiveness, it's been frosty, it's been toxic, it's been everything really. I've been liking this so far, and I think the biggest surprise, well, not the biggest surprise to me, but the biggest enthusiasm I'm getting is that we see a lot more lightning and conduit than we may have expected before. There's a lot of CC, a lot of disruption coming out, but also a lot of that tracking coming through with the conduit, with the lightning gauntlet. It's not something that we saw a lot of, but with the recent patches that have come in, with general the meta shifts that are slowly happening over time, there are seeming to be more lightning players, or at least conduit players.
Yeah, I think that especially like in duos and squads, you're probably going to see it a lot more than potentially in solos. I feel like in solos we see like a conduit player here and there. I do think we have confirmation that we're probably going to be jumping into game number 3. But yeah, so definitely what feels like a little bit more room for conduit
Yeah.
players to kind of catch their stride. They have one additional teammate. They're able to kind of wiggle around and have not to worry about their early game so much if they are going to be inside the game. And the same thing could be said about Frostborn. Again, I think that Frostborn is still one of those classes that I'm not sure the entirety of the Spellbreak community has adopted enough of yet. I know that sounds weird, right? Because like everybody that's been playing this game knows pretty much how to play any class, but it's just one of those classes that doesn't get a lot of representation outside of a handful of specific players. So once we get a qualifier that has more of Frostborn players, we'll start to see that. But yeah, definitely conduit players are going to be out and about. So look at this. We're going to be jumping into game number 1, and this is going to be Megaverse and Chaos, fighting out here right outside of the Stone Tooth Mountain, which is, I'm going to dub it Stone Tooth. If they're landing there, it's Stone Tooth Mountain. So we're going to see how they decide to kick this game off. The first knowledge potion of the game going to be found in that of Chaos, who's most likely going to toss that over towards Megaverse, and the Thirsty is obviously going to be prioritized. So definitely something to think about in chat if you guys are interested in competitive strategy, thinking about how to funnel those scrolls and where to put those the strength of the talents inside your team.
It's really that next level move that teams make, as we see SYG in a bit of a kerfuffle here already get Oxio disrupted here, so AMV will have to do a lot of work to try and catch this one back. If the Thirst doesn't come out onto Oxio, tries to take this high ground, is actually successful, but how are you going to pull this back? You don't have a lot of health, you have no resources, you don't even have a belt to work with, or any equipment, so this might just be AMV trying to get away from this and just leaving Oxio behind, because that's just at some point a more viable strategy. I do see another orb around there, so this might be a third party. In the meantime, he gets to go get an amulet, and maybe a scroll. No, doesn't want to go for that, just wants to find more loot to potentially come back into this fight and actually do some damage. Maybe get a few exiles out of it and save his squad mate. The Thirst hasn't come out yet, so that means there's probably some sort of engagement going on around there. Picks up the belt, maybe can pick up more before he has to go back there. Frost Gauntlet is helpful here. He'll definitely be able to shoot some Ice Lances from range. He has the Toxic as well, picks up a Safeguard Potion, some armor shards. This is not AMV being in a very precarious position. It's just annoying that he might have to go back for his teammate. Well, I call it annoying. I just call that unfortunate, rather. But yeah, doesn't have to do it anymore. Has been thirsted by the Darkbreakers. And now Darkbreakers and Majin are going to chase this down, because that's not the same squad that was chasing AMV down. This could be more than just those 3 players going around. Now Raikoda and Fluff Noodles saw them almost win that last round. Got in second, and are starting off right now to just roam around the map, pick up some loot. They're doing a good job of it, and I already see 2 knowledge potions in this building crash here. They're going to be stacked on those. Let's see who picks them up and who actually uses them. Because, of course, they're not going to leave those just laying around.
Yeah, I completely agree. They're not going to leave them laying around. If I had to guess, I'm going to assume that Fluff and Nudes is going to go ahead and pop those. It's a little bit more lightning strikes. He'll have the flame walls, but if he's running the offhand fire that I'm assuming he is, but he can actually use those flame walls for, blocking, as where, maybe his teammate might want to be a little bit more greedy with his flame walls to use for Firefly. That said, we're going to be jumping over to Programmer 69 down here in this Bogmore region. Another Toxicologist running that standard 2-2-2 build, so he's going to be looking to get in close and close the gap here. Might land this snipe, not going to connect with that. The lightning strike not going to connect as well. It looks like he and his teammate are going to be still getting very aggressive because they have that health advantage. Now, a bit of a disengage coming out from their enemies here. Oh, a fireball actually looks like it came out from behind him. That might have been Programmer or his teammate Nando. Just shooting over the top. We'll have to see, but this is turning into a quick storm fight, a very dangerous storm fight. They already have that one disruption in Indubitably Nasty, so he's going to be falling down at the hands of Pro Gamer. That's going to be a full thirst and finish, because they're just, they just need to clean this up and get out of this position. They don't want to get stuck out here. And I see Chaos and Megaverse already keeping themselves consistent, getting those points onto the kill board, the kill feed. There we're looking for. That's the word I'm looking for. Wonderful and Lovell going to be finding themselves into a fight as well, right here inside that Fort Halcyon southern section of Fort Halcyon. Looks like Lovell taking that high ground, does have that offhand frost. Definitely something that we're used to seeing quite a bit. And Wonderful takes a bit of damage. He's playing that Stone Shaper, but he's going to have to back up. They might look for a little bit of a reset here.
Yeah, potentially, but right now they don't really have to, because it seems like their health is okay, and these Ice Lances are just still flying around. Lightning Strike won't hit, that's a bit too far away, but the Boulder Fall is close to hitting. Lovell will, of course, just dodge that, because it is a slow-moving rock that you can just sidestep if you really want to. I always have to think of that scene in Lord of the Rings where the rock just comes at the orc, and he's like, nope, I'm just going to step aside at the last second. It's not that hard to dodge. You're going to see Lovell shooting him a few more Ice Lances. This player is incredibly low, and they're in the zone, so they're either take out, or they're just going to get the exile. If he takes out, they still get the credit for the exile. You can report that later and say, guys, we deserve that one, come on. But it doesn't have to, because he gets the Darkbreakers, and that's the Darkbreakers and Majin under a lot of pressure right now. The Thirst will come out, so Majin will have to continue this game on his own. And this is a relatively early a checkout, but of course there is still positioning to be gained for Majin. So it's not over just yet for that team. Scoring isn't
Yeah, built us
completely
a new
ruined,
cart, and we had the
but
little
compared to their
accordion
last game, they're
pedal that
not
was
going to
gonna
be able to
put
score that
it.
same jackpot.
Yeah,
It
for
was a
sure. So
pain.
it definitely seems like, maybe the scores are going to be a little bit closer across the board overall. We'll have to see. I mean, obviously, SK might be their throwaway game. Last game could be G3 throwaway game, but they're going to have to keep that performance consistent. Lovell and Wonderful going to step themselves up the points a little bit here. That's a good team to take out because that has consequence, moving forward. Now that, SK doesn't have their full roster going into the end game, that means that Wonderful and Lovell have some stronger potential to pop off and win the game. Granted, they have to go through G3, but that was always the condition regardless. So we'll see how they decide to position here. They're just kind of hanging out here, still in this Halcyon region. You do see that they are inside that new zone, and 3 exiles on Lavelle already, and they have some pretty good gear. Just looking at it, the purple belt, that epic belt in the hands of Lavelle, and look at that. Megaverse finds himself a couple of quick kills. It always seems like Megaverse is the confirming, that frontline kind of body that he has, with the backline of Chaos playing that Pyromancer, gets in whenever he has that offhand frost. But for now, it looks like Lavelle and Wonderful are looking to full engage fight here, Mana Class.
Yeah, they definitely are going to be able to do so as well. As we go over to Wonderful, who's going to be the frontline engager of the two. One more rock and fire will probably do it. It's so close. There gets in mid-air. Wonderful takes on Arnando B. So there will be Programmer on the other side who's being barraged by Lavelle at this point. But there is a third party going on. Who is that? Could that be Majin maybe? Looks like it's only one player. And Majin was around this area earlier on with the conduit too, with the lightning gauntlet. It's very likely that it's Majin at least. For now, though, they are still trying to finish off this fight. They only took down Arnando. Actually, Arnando was the last of the two, so that team has been exiled now. Wonderful and Lavelle looking at a probable around 4 exiles, most likely. C2 on Wonderful usually gets traded out half-half between the two. And they are chasing down this one lightning player. Let's see if they actually win the conduit or it's not. And they are having to chase this down because this player is very fast and loose and not easy to catch around this area. A lot of teleports going on, I feel like. But at least they got the high ground. And high ground positioning, we know, is not something to be scoffed at, especially if you're not even in the middle of the zone yet.
There's only 2.
Yeah, absolutely not. I mean, it's a pretty great position to hold, especially if you're, like you said, you're already up there early, you're inside the zone. Looking at the kill feed, though, Megaverse, another couple of exiles onto Josh and Sir Squisho. So that's another team goes down at the hands of G3. This is that game where they're like making up for that previous performance. Lil Hustle and Brimer starting to go in, and look at this, how consistent the playstyle is. A little bit of variance with the builds, but the Stone Shaper initiation, that's something to take note of. Ladies and gentlemen, if you're paying attention, you're looking to play Stone Shaper in competitive, or just looking to see how that role is played inside the game of Spellbreak, well, look, you can get very aggressive. Stone Shaper, offhand fire, regardless of how the build comes out, definitely seems like that's very much so the role that it fills. So Brimer, Lil Hustle, they find themselves a couple of exiles, and it looks like a little bit of pressure onto Brimer now, so he's going to be moving forward. That might have been Hustle accidentally shot him in the back. Actually, now that I think about it, I don't know, but maybe not. They're spacing away. They're just playing for positioning here. 10 players left alive in total. Looks like Fluff and Nudes was able to get himself, I believe, a full exile as well. Yeah, that's going to be Green Sloth is going to go down at the hands of Fluff and Nudes. So he was probably, hanging out at some point. Elder Gold is down as well. So 10 players left alive in total. Brimer and Lil Hustle just looking for a new position to stand.
This could be Chaos and Megaverse's game to take away again. They already have plenty on the board in terms of exiles. Even Chaos has got 2, even though Megaverse finishes most of it off. But yeah, like I said, they had something to make up for, so it's not at all illogical that they're being so adamant about the performance of this one. A lot of fireballs just throwing around saying, guys, we're over here, come fight us, please, we want more. We just need more damage, more exiles. But it happened to hit someone on top of this tower. We don't even know if they knew if someone was there. Sometimes you don't even see them, but they are able to just keep spamming them out. It's interesting that they're choosing to do it with fireballs, though, and not with frost lances. You would maybe expect them to do. Chaos, of course, has that Pyromancer class, but hits the Ice Lance from far range. That's what you love to see. G3 putting pressure on their enemies, putting pressure on by being in this position in the first place. And this is going to be a lot of damage flying your way if you're not able to dodge it. It's not terribly difficult to do so. I mean, it is far away, and you are slowly shooting projectiles. That doesn't mean you don't want to get away from it in the first place. Chaos is looking around together with Megaverse. They're scouting the grounds, they're scouting their win condition, and meanwhile, Megaverse goes in a little bit deeper, almost get lightning struck over there. But his windmill, his broken windmill, is a position that is less safe to be around. The high ground that they had was actually a pretty good position, and now they're going to give it up in order to try and chase down these other players, teleport away, and Chaos is looking for it. Where did they go? What can we do against this? We're going to take this other tower now in order to be in a good position. Again, the lightning strikes are coming out still. They're trying to block that chase. But this broken village is not going to be a hiding place for long, especially against the Pyromancer. It's just a lot of AoE damage they can throw in there in order to deny your position. But Brymer and Little Hustle are looking to just dodge everything and hide from this fight until they get engaged on. You don't want to fight this team on the high ground without any distractions.
Yeah, and I mean, to add insult to injury for SK's game here, it does seem like Megaverse was able to get that exile onto Majin. So now SK is down in this game, similar to what we saw, in the previous game. Only in that last game, SK didn't actually get themselves a first place finish. So now, if we see G3 find themselves in a first place finish here, or at least maybe a top 2, top 3, we're definitely going to know who our point leaders are. But Wonderful Lavelle getting themselves into a little bit of a scuffle here. They're going to just go ahead and back up, play this tower, play that high ground, but the viscosity is not something that you want to stand in. Now that that Fortitude is popped, the Shadow Step going to be, ticked off as well. Look at so much damage coming out of both of them. The tower is just being completely sieged. That's a boulder, some Tox Cloud coming out. That's going to be wonderful for basically 100 nodes so very quickly. Lavelle going to be the last one left alive on very low health as well. Megaverse and Chaos are in no shortage of being able to get aggressive and get into the fight. Now you see that full-on W key coming out the third party. They know that they can push this. They know that they can be very aggressive. The Vital Stone's still in the pocket on that, that Stone Shaper build that's coming out. I don't know, maybe this is new meta, who knows, but Chaos taking a little bit of damage. They're still in full pursuit again. Even if they don't get the full confirm, as long as they don't die here, they're still putting out that damage, still adding to their total score. It does look like they're going to take some time to go ahead and reset a little bit here.
Well, the Megaverse definitely is. Chaos looks to be still in fight. Nope, he's also been healing up. That's great to see from them. Two other teams. We know one of them is Lil Hustle and Brymer. The other squad would be... I don't know. I don't think we actually know who the other squad is because Wonderful and Lovell were exiled. We're going to be seeing that anytime soon. I'm sure we'll see them either in the exile feed or somewhere else, but a third party from G3 is full underway. Already got Brymer out of this one. Now they're going to see what else they can hit. A mid-air fireball from Megaverse, because why not? Why not put the Dragonfire in it as a bonus? One more hit on this one player and they will be out of the game. That's the exile on Fluff and Nude, so that's another Egg White's finish here. Chaos is disrupted though, so this might be a 2v1, actually a 1v1, because I do see the orb flying around there. And this could be it. Winner, winner, chicken dinner. Megaverse gets it out there. Another first place finish for G3. And they're going back up on those leaderboards.
Yeah, 2 out of 3 games on NA are going to be going towards the side of G3. And one thing, I was going to say it, we didn't quite see it happen. I'm almost a little disappointed if I'm being completely honest, but I think that this is a noteworthy talking point.
Yeah.
Megaverse is basically playing without a third talent. Basically, because it doesn't activate unless he goes down. But here's the thing, it's an investment in the potential to edge out a little bit more points, right? Like if they find themselves being the third party focus team in the top 3, Chaos goes down, Megaverse gets Vital Stone, maybe he can float around, maybe he can survive a little bit to get those other 2 teams to focus each other and, get himself a little bit more points. Now, that's not even what happened, Vanaclass. That's not even what happened. He still doesn't pop the Vital Stone, stays alive, Chaos goes down. So again, we saw more of a potential payoff for Vital Stone in this game than we did in game number 1, because Chaos actually went down before him as opposed to the other way around. But or I should have said that a little bit backwards. Chaos goes down before him, so he might have been able to get focused, but still, even so, like staying alive, keeping his health consistent, like he was able to find the final kill out of it and never using that last point or that last talent, which is 3 points. You know what I mean? Like that's pretty substantial if you think about it. Usually that's going to be a thirsty
Really
position,
is.
so he doesn't have like the double thirsty, but maybe he just feels like he doesn't need it. I don't know if I'm trying to get inside the head of Megaverse, if I'm being completely honest. Is this something that he's actually trying to do?
Well, I mean, so my thinking behind it is that if you have a Vital Stone, if you know you can go in for a hit without being disrupted, you can go in for a riskier hit for a lot of damage potential. It's like the antithesis of what fortitude is on the body talent, right? So fortitude allows you to initiate by getting a lot of damage in without taking the risk of getting as much damage back yourself. And I feel like Vital Stone kind of does the same thing because it's an instant version of recovery where you get all the health back straight away because you revive essentially if you just don't go down. So it allows you to do a lot of damage in a situation where you otherwise be like, oh, I might go back, but you have that option to keep fighting someone when you're both on low HP, where you know that even if they hit, you still have another shot at it. So you just increase your odds, you increase your damage potential, and you most of all you decrease the risk of or to decrease the situations in which you feel like you have to retreat. So you can actually go in for that killing blow sometimes.
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it too, like, don't get me wrong, like double thirsty is not bad. There's not a
No,
situation where thirsty is bad, but it's
no,
also not necessarily necessary. Again, I think this is probably the case of like Megaverse testing things out. It's a qualifier.
maybe.
It's the perfect reason or scenario for him to test something out as long as he feels comfortable enough on it. And
No.
yeah, I mean we're seeing it work, so I definitely don't think it's something that's like new meta, right? I don't think that's what we're seeing
Hmm.
here, but I definitely think it's something that's like worth testing on, the what I guess I can say at least standings wise, the best team in the qualifier, testing some things out, giving it their good old college try on it. So, that
For
said,
sure.
game number 3 is done. We are going to be moving into a halftime here in just a bit. We'll have some scores to show you guys. I think maybe when we come back, or at least sometime
We will.
afterwards.
For
And
sure we will.
yeah, we'll be moving over to EU.
Cool. Gonna have about 10 minutes break, so you have plenty of time to go get some drink, get some snacks, can do some anything. You don't have to stick around during those 10 minutes, but don't forget to come back. Just set a timer. We'll have one on the screen, but set a timer for yourself so you don't miss it. And we'll see you guys in a little bit. Woo! We're back, everybody. Second half, finally on home turf for me because we're back in EU. Oh, it's gonna be great. We have 3 games down, 3 games to go. My camera's still messing up, but that's okay. Gonna be looking at the standings so far because Crashy, we do actually know scores now. I've got a beautiful new graphic to show you all. So look at this one. The points are on the board with the team names. It's all super nice and slick. And look at that. And to no one's surprise, it's G3-1 on the top of this 1084 points. Silent Kill 932, so not that far behind. Galaxy tiered with 723. Who's carrying who with 621, and Wonder Vel with 596 on number 5. Of course, there's still 5 teams below that. IDK, I don't know, or Shrug as I like to call them, Dixon Butter, Bert Sansa, Dino Nuggies, and Mem. They are making up the number 6 through 10, but of course, it's the top 5 that we truly care about. And there is a little bit of a race going on for that. There is still a close ish potential for especially the number 6 and 7 and maybe even 8 to really make that run still. But it's getting a bit out of hand maybe for some of the other teams because remember we have 15 teams in the qualifiers, and that means that 5 of them don't even have over the 188 point mark, and that's not that much for 3 games.
Yeah, no, I completely agree. I think whenever you're probably looking at the board right now, you're eighth place or lower. This is the period of time where you're saying like, look, it's Hail Mary time. We gotta jump in the game. We gotta get really aggressive. We need to get like 7 kills and a win, or 8 kills and a win potentially, just really to throw themselves, really project themselves up those leaderboards, up that standings. But that said, looking at sixth and seventh place, 492, 449, that's about 150 point difference between them and fifth place. And that is a very tangible thing to do to achieve over the course of the next 3 games. Again, we are taking the top 4 performances for each team as opposed to, all 6 games that we're playing today. So there's still a little bit of shakeup room. The top 3 looking pretty solid, pretty solid. I'd say, anywhere between One and two looking really solid. Two and or three and four have a little bit of wiggle room. Definitely can shift around, especially if we see any of those scenarios like we've seen in a game. Two and three where G3 or SK actually do fall. So not a huge
Yeah.
point lead like I was almost expecting going into this qualifier, but it is definitely there. So first place, second place, they're probably going to be top five confirmed. Just about, it's almost impossible for them not to grab a top five confirmation. So they're going to be in
Yeah.
that finals guaranteed. But for everybody else, they still have a little bit more work to do, man, in class. So we have to see
Well, I mean,
how that influences things.
like the worst part about it is that G3 got 910 points out of just 2 games. So even if that one throwaway game they had in game number 2 where they got exiled ridiculously early, that doesn't even matter because with those 2 games they might already qualify with 910 points. But they're still gonna, of course, keep playing. Like we said, we still have 3 games to go. All the European server. So for a lot of players, this might actually be the games that they're gonna do worse in. But other players might be doing better because they have that ping advantage. Uh, or they play well on disadvantaged ping. That can also happen sometimes. So we'll see what effect this will have in the coming 3 rounds. And like you said, because no rounds have officially been thrown away yet, there is a lot of shuffle room in that leaderboard.
Yeah, I mean, we can say for sure after this game that is at very least a solidified point standing for four games. Now, obviously, it's still going to be kicked out performances. Maybe not, maybe here and there,
Mm.
but regardless, we have to wait and see how that happens. So we're going to be moving into game number 4 here shortly. Again, we are on that EU region. So for I think it's only like a handful of players. I'm looking at chat, kind of catching around. I'm sorry that I don't know everybody's region off the top of my head, like
It's
what players
hard.
are
It's hard
EU.
to remember
It is,
this.
it is,
Yeah.
it is tough, but for the few EU players that are in the qualifier, I'm not sure if there's a full EU team, but if there is, now's the time to shine. You know what I mean? You might have that lower ping, have that potential to play at least in a more normal feeling sense.
Yeah, for sure. Now, of course, we have been looking at that top 10. We know which teams are basically out and which teams still have a chance to go on things and which teams are basically in. But like we said, there is wiggle room. I love to see it. And if you want to keep up to date with those scores, see when those games start mattering after game 4, when those dropout games actually start getting registered, get into Discord, exclamation mark score to Discord, and any channel will give you a bot response that says, hey, look, this is the scores that everyone has right now, which you already filled in. And you can also join for future events. You can find other info, scrims, tournaments, whatever you want. It's all there in the Element Discord, but you do have to join to see it because we're not going to be able to give you all the info all the time on streams. We're not live 24/7.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And we have more action to come, man. More action to come. Again, I gotta say, it almost makes me it almost makes me a little sad. We're not seeing a whole lot of wind out of these games. I feel like the only wind I've seen
Mhm.
at all, obviously I could say Tempest, but I mean in general, I'm not seeing a ton of wind. We see a little bit of wind offhand coming out from breakers, but otherwise, I'm not gonna lie, I don't really know if I've seen much other wind play. We got a good, healthy amount of Stone Shapers, definitely very, very prominent and strong in the meta, not just in solos and duos as well. We have our resident Tox players, handful of Tox players that come out. Lil Hustle, a few other players as well, just to name, one that comes to mind. We've got some Pyromancers, which is not, I don't want to say that's surprising to me. It's not necessarily surprising to me, but, Pyromancers, holding it down for their class, definitely still in there. Lots of Frost offhand. And yeah, some conduit thrown in there a little bit, but not a whole lot of Tempest, not a whole lot of wind in general
No.
inside the game. But we'll see how that changes qualifier to qualifier, mode to
Well,
mode, and then maybe patch to patch.
so what I look at from gauntlets, so what all gauntlets have that the one thing that wind doesn't have is wind has no possibility out of the gauntlet itself to do burst damage. It just doesn't. Like you can have the SMG effect where you get close, you do like a lot of wind shears, but you can have that same effect with one fireball. You can have that same effect with a frost lance at range. You can have the same effect and with a lightning strike, you could say because you could say conduit arguably has the same issue. But a lightning strike, you disable your opponent and don't try to keep them in one position, but you disable your opponent while being able to do damage, and it also does like instant damage on them. So there's like so much more potential you can get out of that because you can escape from a tornado with a rune or with good movements. You can't escape from lightning strike after you've been hit. So wind has really it's missing something that makes it on par with others, that makes the utility worth using. And while the Darkbreakers is able to make it work because their Stone Shaper is really good in the combo with it, it's still hard to actually pull it off. And you do see a lot of players that were fans of the Wind Gauntlet, that were fans of the Tempest class, still choose to go with these more bursty, quicker damage type gauntlets and classes a lot of the time. So we'll see if it changes over time. We'll see if maybe there's a new class coming, new patch, balance changes, talents, runes. Like there's a lot of things that can influence this. But if I look at the talent, like the class or the gauntlet in and of itself, that's where it really stands out to the other gauntlets for me, and that's probably a big reason as to why we don't see a lot of it.
Yeah, and just a quick shout out to Strofo and Southside Sandy in the chat. They give me some much needed information and confirmation that I've been misspeaking. So my apologies. We're going to be taking 5 out of 6 games for the total scoring. So a
Ooh,
little bit of a change up there, at
interesting.
least for me. Coming back into casting with this new event. So into the duos. I finally enter as Qualifier 1 was not streamed, and now that I'm here, I get the knowledge from the chat, from the community. We love you guys. I definitely appreciate it. But nonetheless, we already see, Indubitably Nasty in the kill feed, grabs himself a few, if not more. Exiles, Disruptions, G3 already found themselves a couple right off spawn as well. We have Fluff and News and Raikkoda hanging out here in the Bogmore region, and look at this. I love this like flying overview where you can look down at Bogmore and you see all the lit up chests. There's just so much loot here. Definitely a good place, especially if you feel comfortable fighting here, to kind of like solidify and find yourself some loot.
Finding loot is, of course, a big part of what this game is about. Whether you do it from chests or whether you do it from enemies that you've exiled, the loot is something that will level up your game a lot. And these runes and gauntlets and all the equipment and the potions, it's a great resource. Like the biggest thing for me about it is that because there are so many variables in terms of loot, the RNG that you sometimes see in other battle royales kind of gets negated by those sheer variety of things you can actually pick up and level up in. So it's very hard to actually be fully stacked on everything. Um, and G3, like you see, they've had a pretty good job. They have picked up some good items, but they're still missing so much that they could be leveling up in because it's still so early in the game. They both are actually taking a lot of damage right now. Megaverse still has some shield, still has some health. Of course, they are on the Stone Shaper. And Chaos is trying to help out. Does get the Mustard disruption here. We'll see if they can keep this going. Chaos actually makes sure that I think they get third party there because Chaos does get that exile confirmation, but doesn't seem to have taken out the other player themselves. And now Megaverse has taken a big distance from where Chaos is, tries to go back into it because Chaos is in Ruby Grove. But this might be an opportunity for anyone who's third partying or is coming into this to take out Chaos before Megaverse even gets close. Does seem like Ruby Grove is empty though, so they are maybe getting a bit lucky there. But they are looking still over their shoulders because they know there's players around that area.
Yeah, and just on Megaverse's peak back towards Stonetooth Mountain, I can't help but call it that. I'm sorry, but yeah, looking back over at the Stonetooth Mountain, you see a player levitating over there, and I think that this is the play here. You see that Iceland's just skirting by his face, and they're already getting reset, so it's not necessarily a detrimental position to be in. But they want to go ahead and back up. They're going to reposition, maybe look for a little bit more loot. If you're looking at the inventory of Megaverse, no scrolls to his name just yet. So maybe it's just a smarter decision to go ahead and reposition. Let's go ahead and take a small moment to loot up and see what we can find. That said, if that enemy team decides to keep pushing, you can be rest assured that they will turn around and look for that fight. But this is all about just building that trajectory for the end of the game. Wonderful finding himself a few exiles in the kill feed. I saw SK, they were able to take out one of the teams in the game, already cutting down to that 22 player count. And it seems like that's pretty much the pacing for the game, right? Like you get off drop, a couple of people are fighting, a couple teams fighting for their locations, and about half the lobby really does fall down. Now an epic fire gauntlet going in the hands of Megaverse. He's definitely going to be happy about that one. They're going to take their time, like I said, to just loot up here and see what they can find. They're inside the zone. They don't have to worry too much as we jump over to wonderful N Lovell, who might be in a bit more of an interesting position right now. Looks like they're, moving their way out of the Bogmore area. He's going to be looking for the lineup snipe. Not going to connect with that one, but these players are looking to disengage. Pyromancer across from Lovell and Wonderful. We'll see how hard they decide to chase here because they're definitely trying to keep themselves solid in the standings here.
Definitely, Wondervel, as they lovingly call themselves, is trying to up their game a little bit on this EU server right now. It looks like they've been getting some exiles in. Arnando is in the exile feed right now, though. Gets both Glob Bras and Meta Gamer out of there, and I don't know. It's not a team we've seen do a lot. We've seen them in the exile feed a lot, mostly on the wrong side of it for them. We'll see if they can maybe come back into this entire tournament series. Like we said, we've been saying 4 out of 6 games get taken away. It's 5 out of 6. So it really means that we only have a proper overview after the last game, which is great because it keeps being tense until then, until you actually know who's going to get qualified. And the longer we keep the tension going, the more excited everyone's going to be about it, including us, Crashy. But right now, it's going to be level and wonderful. Looking for some more players to do some damage on, looking for some more players to get some exiles on, and looking for some more points to score, most importantly. They do actually spot out something here. I don't know if they're going to chase it down. I think they're just going to chase on the circle edge. Make sure that whoever wants to get into the zone over this bridge is going to have to deal with them. That's exactly what level does. Sends the signals that here's an ice lance. If you want to get closer, you're going to have to deal with more than just the lands here and there.
Yeah, I completely agree. And one thing to think about as well is, with that addition of the fifth scored game, that means that consistency now matters more than ever. You have one less throwaway than, maybe they're used to, or than maybe that we were portraying at the beginning. So that means that, even some of those games where, maybe you don't get the most exiles, maybe you can only, like, one player's left alive, your teammate goes down, you're only able to, skirt your way to, like, fifth place or something just as a solo player. Those games actually kind of matter now, Mana Class. So it's definitely something for these players to be thinking about themselves, but for us to be thinking about in terms of the scoring. And now you see our Nando and Pro Gamer 69. They're going to find themselves a couple of exiles, 18 players left alive in total. And look at that, the legendary Frost Gauntlet. We'll see. Looks like that'll probably go in the hands of Pro Gamer if that's going to be that build that he's rocking. But ultimately, that might have been a bit of a misclick there. I don't know. Not sure what the case may be there, but nonetheless, he's going to go in and get healed up. And a legendary teleport, on a conduit, that's not a bad rune to have. Definitely not a bad situation to be in.
Oh, for sure. It's one of those runes that if you get that extra rune charge from your conduit class, you're going to be a very happy camper because you can just teleport twice whenever you want. And he's even has a knowledge potion in the pocket, so he might be able to teleport 4 times if he wants to. And that's going to be very annoying to deal with, to say the very least, if they get into a little bit of a skirmish. Let me see, Pro Game and Arnando still in the exile feed, actually racking up the numbers at the moment. They might be one of those teams that actually is from EU. Again, we don't know for sure because we don't always get all the information, but it does seem at least like there's a case to be made for that because look at them popping off. They actually got a full ace in the exile feed right now. No one else is on it, and I'm Scotty and Punisher are now trying to get their dues, getting their value on this EU server too. Not really any exiles on the board just yet from Scotty. I don't think Punisher has any either. There is a big rock coming into the face of I Am Scotty. He's throwing back some damage underneath this archway, trying to just hide and peek the corner in order to get the damage in. But gets at least the opening to heal up a little bit. An extra armor shard in there. Meanwhile, Punisher is actually getting pressured down. Scotty needs to start helping out here, and he's going to do exactly that. Some boulder falls, some toxic sprays coming in, but still, it's going to be Punisher taking a lot of damage, and I don't think they have the upper hand in this fight right now. Both teams semi-resetting here, trying to reposition and re-engage this fight, but it's an Ice Lance in the face. Scotty in a lot of trouble here, trying to get away, but I don't think Scotty's going to go that far. Nice firewall to try and do this. They actually use the firewall on the Firefly, but they get too close, and Scotty disrupts them. Gets disrupted himself by Wonderful. This is Wondervel that actually tries to do something here, but Wonderful will close it out. Gets a double exile there, and that's going to be the pickup for level. And be the continuation of their streak, because this has been a decent game for them so far.
Yeah, this is one of those games that situation we talked about where any team that's not, already sitting pretty comfortable in the standings, they have to make something happen. And, if you're falling down to some of these other teams that are, sitting in that top 5 position, you're kind of helping them, solidify their position a little bit more. So that bottom side of the bracket, with 5 scored games in their current standings, it's going to be very, very hard to climb up. But Majin, Darkbreakers keeping themselves consistent. Lovell, Wonderful, keeping their point game consistent as well. And presumably G3 still alive in this game. So Majin, Darkbreakers, they find themselves wait, what did I just hear? SK took out G3 in this one. I missed that in the kill feed at some point, so that's going to be a huge one to think about because again,
It's
this is a
great.
scored scrim.
Yeah.
You got to love the production in my ears. You have to absolutely love it. So Chaos and Megaverse going to unfortunately going to be falling at the hands of G3. We have a little bit of a back and back rivalry. That said, like we said, just looking at the standings earlier, most likely going to be able to finish in that top five. Almost guaranteed to finish in that top five. But we're going to be on board with Josh and Otrix now. That's going to be a bit of a sub there. Maybe coming out from Sir Squisho. Otrix going to be back into the event. Looks like a disruption coming out from Josh. So they're going to be chasing down this last player, and Josh actually changing class is going to be on that Stone Shaper here for the EU Ping. Maybe something a little bit more comfortable, so they're going to go ahead and take out all the gold and green slot. But the third party is coming in. That's going to be Josh going very, very low. He's going to see if he can reposition a bit just to find a position for him to heal up, and does not have that thirsty talent though. So him and Otrix going to be very, very, very dangerous territory here.
Dangerous territory indeed as Joshua and Otrix. Otrix actually now back in EU is playing with the squad again. Looks like there's just been a short sub from Squisho coming out. But I don't know. It's looking okay for them so far. They at least got a few exiles on the board. Unfortunately for quite a few other players, they're going to keep on trying to get those exiles. This is a player with some very low HP. Going to get taken out. It's Fluffy Nudes. So that means that that would most likely be... It could be the teammate, but it could also be a third party that they're coming into right now. Fluffy Nudes is playing Raikoda, of course. Oh, trying to get the pickup there is not going to happen on the watch of Joshua. Shockwave and Boulder Falls falling down. This Stone Shaper build is definitely coming at you straight away with 4 boulders and firewalls in the charge. Going to try and keep those shockwaves coming. Almost hitting a few more, but Joshua is not going to be able to hit them right now. There we go, around the corner. That's Primer out of it. Actually, it's a little hustle getting out of it. So Primer, of course, playing with little hustle, not with Raikoda. But now they're going to just keep on continuing this tear. Almost gets another one. I think that's because there were 2 teams fighting. So this also a solo player right now. Teammate also being down. So this might actually be Raikoda then, if I'm not mistaken. We'll see. A little bit of a shockwave or a fireball. This will be the finish, Crashy, because you're gonna can run away, but I don't think you can run away that far from a duo like Joshua and Otrix. They will be finishing off this kill. They're not that sloppy, and it's going to be indeed Raikoda taken out by Otrix. That is another 2 exiles on the board for them. They're really wrecking them up right now, and that's good because they need the scores.
Oh, and look at that, the double boulders coming down right on the head of Josh. That was that last little bit of shields that he had. So this is, a lot of damage coming their way. The Stone Shaper, the Dragon Fire combination coming out, not going to connect. Josh is going to land a boulder in the midair, but he's definitely, on the back foot. He's going to have to start seeing if he can slam down, get a little bit of armor, but no, Dark Breakers comes over the top, flank that shockwave onto Josh. Josh is going to go ahead and fall down as we are going to change a position here onto Wonderful Lavelle. Lavelle is taking a bit of damage. Wonderful has no shields himself, but they're trying to just reposition if they can. We have SK going up against the Wonderful and Lavelle. We'll see if they can reposition. He's caught himself in between a couple firewalls here, so a little bit of a comfortable position, but some conduit, some lightning potential coming out. You do see that Lavelle is going to be on Pyro, Wonderful on Stone Shaper, so I want to say we might have a little bit more Stone Shaper than we had over on the NA side, just because that ping variance. So this fight is going to be breaking out. The lightning strikes are going to be coming down. Wonderful and Lavelle did give themselves a bit of a reset here, so a little bit of health advantage. Might be swinging back and forth, just depending on what team that we're watching. Enemy player up on top of this tower, and it looks like Wonderful just doing his best to track these players, find out where they're standing, sees if he can get a little bit of damage, connects with 1 fireball, not going to connect with the second, but unfortunately that boulder is going to connect, and yes, there is a conduit in game. You see those secondary strikes going to be landing. Wonderful and Lavelle are still alive. They're putting out some damage, but nobody has been disrupted in quite a while in the class. It looks like that's going to change very quickly, though. Darkbreakers finds the disruption onto Wonderful, and now Majid and Darkbreakers getting very aggressive. Lavelle going to fall, and that is the game.
Very nicely done from SK, but of course also from Wondervel, as well as who were the last ones? IDK. Yeah, IDK definitely doing well there. Didn't really have a high scoring game so far. This might be one of their ones. But yeah, SK might be overtaking G3 with this. They of course only had one lesser-ish game. G3 now has gotten 2 that they've been exiled early by SK, actually notably, which is interesting. They might also almost be knowing where they drop. Not that hard to guess if you're looking at where G3 is dropping, because it's basically Stone Tooth Mountain as we're just dubbing it for this series. But we'll see if that changes in the future. Game 4 down, first game on EU, and we do see certain teams doing a lot better. Anoda, Pro Gamer, they've been popping off this game, at least in terms of exiles. They didn't get the highest placements, but at least they're able to get a lot more points on the board than they were before the break.
Yeah, we're definitely still seeing a little bit of a battle for that fifth place position, most likely. Fourth place might be pulling away a little bit. We'll have to wait and see how things change because going into this event, even when me and you were talking, I had it in my mind that we were
Yeah,
taking 4 games, and now that's totally changed things. That actually is a pretty profound change if you think about it, because every
yeah,
single game matters. So now in situations where hey, look, we got to be consistent because that's battle royale, right? We got to be consistent across
yeah.
multiple games. Well, now you got to be consistent across five,
More
six
than
of the games. Yeah,
multiple. Yeah.
more of those games. There's so much tiny room for tiny margin of error. That was the way that you put
Yeah.
it earlier. So a much smaller margin of error, allowed in that type of scenario. So we'll have to see what happens with the standings, because I think there's going to be a little bit more of a shakeup that is potentially allowed to happen.
For sure, for sure. And shakeups are what we're all about. You can shake people up with a good boulder fall sometimes. You can definitely shake them up with just some score changes too. We'll see if that. So what I'm looking forward to in these next few games, right? It's seeing if teams actually go into that Hail Mary position where they actually go into that state of mind of just go, 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 no stop, no chill, just exile as much as you can. And if you're going to go that route, you might almost consider maybe running some sort of scavenging build, because then don't have to really have a lot of time to heal up between the fights. But for now, it does seem like scavenging, even when it's not like as long as it's not solos, it's usually just not picked. It's just not one of those talents you really go for, because you need to get the XL. If you don't get the XL, you don't get the benefits from it. So for now, dexterity, fervor, maybe some finders keepers here and there. Those really seem to be the talents people go with still.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, you're not seeing a ton of foresight in the current meta, and I actually have some interesting thoughts about foresight. I would love, just in general, for anybody in chat to share some of their thoughts with it as well. I think that in the current meta, we see a lot of fervor, we see a lot of dexterity, very strong talents that come out. Dexterity tends to come out more in a build that's not focused on fervor specifically. So, like,
Mm,
when you're not running a build that you absolutely want fervor in, then you tend to lean into dexterity. But fervor really being just the king of that body talent. And I actually think that, granted, we know some changes are coming with chapter 2 right around the corner, about a month away, maybe a little bit less. And I think it's safe to say, or at least it's a safe assumption to assume, that we're going to get some fervor changes. That said, I actually think it's going to be very interesting to see where foresight falls in the meta, because I think that foresight is actually a pretty good talent.
yeah.
Maybe not 3 points good, but we'll have to wait and see how teams decide to use that or not. But that said, we're going to be jumping into what I believe is game number 5 out of 6,
Game
and
number
this
5 out of
is
6.
this is where some scores will be solidified, because game number 6 for some teams might be their throwaway, and for others it might be their chance at redemption. But game number 5 rather, going to be coming up in just a second, as we're looking to drop in. And yeah, everybody's still fighting for that position, that top 5 position, to see if they can make the Duo Cash Cup qualifiers, or the qualifiers, into finals.
Flipping and flopping, and in game number 5, we're dropping. Gonna be going into that one with the same 15 teams that we've had before. Now we're going to be seeing if they can solidify those scores indeed. Can they get on top of the leaderboard higher up than they were before? Well, Weezox and undisclosed Chinese character name are definitely going to be trying. But so far they're under a little bit of pressure, but it looks like they're putting down more pressure than they're taking at the moment. Weezox has been able to pick up some more shields from the stone skin, then letting a few good shockwaves. Meanwhile, their teammate is doing an okay job at fending off and damaging their combined opponent further. We still see in the exile feed a lot of extra coming through. It's going to be Pavel taking down their teammate of Weezox here, and Weezox is not going to be long for this one. Taking a lot of damage here, almost ticked out, and that should be one more hit coming in where Weezox will dead it. Actually, Salty Sticks falling as a result. Weezox able to pick up their teammate, and they're going to be able to just continue this round. Meanwhile, Brimer, Lil Hustle, flying around this, this stone. This is the conduit shrine, I'm fairly certain.
Yeah.
Let me get
Yeah.
the so this would be around the far west side of the map for anyone who's interested, to be able to pick up a few gauntlets here, a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Interestingly enough, I don't think they've been running a lot of lightning gauntlet themselves, but they still find this a nice drop location. This is probably a pre-patch drop spot that they're still using.
Yeah, and it's actually interesting because, while I do think that the shrines have potential to, influence drops, absolutely. Don't get me wrong. I also don't think that that's like a rule, right? It's not a law that has to come into place where, a team that is, not running lightning, for example, like this team, wouldn't land there because it's still a solid POI, and that's not even a chest that it takes away from. It's just a piece of gear that spawns on the ground. That said, we're going to be watching Megaverse and Chaos. Looks like they're chasing up this potential team that's near their area. Anybody that's near Ruby, anybody that's near the Stone Tooth is going to be falling. That's going to be Tricksta and King's Zesty. Unfortunately, some of our lobby players are going to fall down at the hands of G3, and there's actually an enemy player looking to push in very aggressive, a full other team, but look at that, the shockwaves coming out from Megaverse from that high ground, rolls over the top of that hill, gets quite a bit of damage on that enemy player. Now you see Chaos going to take this time a little bit here, going to use that Thirsty, so they do have one enemy player down. That's going to be Safisa, I believe. Is that Sansa? I couldn't tell if that's actually yeah, that was Sansa. Okay, just the way that the I can't think of the asterisk. I can't think of the tilde. The way that the tilde, looks over that key just kind of caught me out. But so PMD going to be falling at the hands of G3. Unfortunately, not going to keep themselves alive in this one. As G3 continues to get themselves some points on the board. They're fighting for first place over SK. We'll have to see how those standings pan out here after game number 5, after game number 6, the final bit of the EU section. So we're moving into a fight with Indubitably Nasty and Troll Dentist.
Yeah, Indubitably Nasty and Troll Dentist, no, not the highest on the list right now. I don't think they're completely down and out though. Just quickly going over the score notes because I'm trying to find them on the actual list. They were relatively far down. Hasn't been a great run for them so far, but potential to still make it up if they can get some exiles in. But with Troll Dentist going down and Indubitably Nasty being under pressure right now, it doesn't seem like it's going to be a great spot for them this round, and they might just be down and out of this qualifier as a whole. Gonna keep trying, of course, just get that maybe some more damage in, definitely get the placements up a little bit more, because with 22 players in the lobby, this is not where you want to exit the round. Otherwise, you're definitely not making it anymore. Troll Dentist does get thirsted, the exile is out, so we Indubitably Nasty trying to continue this one on his own. The double teleport away, and that's going to be a probably an escape that they're making happen here to the edge of the map, but maybe not one that's going to be lasting for long. 21 players in the lobby, and Indubitably Nasty is going to carry on along.
Yeah, and he's using that tracking, definitely something a little bit different coming out. Indubitably Nasty, somebody that definitely is always on that conduit, so doing his best, to stay alive. It doesn't seem like this is going to be a very strong game for him to be able to stay alive and get a lot of points.
They're going to be following Indubitably Nasty, seeing what's coming around them for now. I don't know. I think if you're on your own, you're trying to get some more positioning out. Of course, you still need to try and get some points in here and there. Darkbreakers and Majin looking for their more exiles on their board for now, because of course they are still trying to hunt that first place down against G3. Right now, though, Darkbreakers doesn't have anything on the board. G3 is getting some value in that exile feed. Going to be trying to follow up on some more on the edge of the zone near the Dust Bowl area as a whole. That's a nice place to be, nice and central on the map. Should be running into a lot of players. But because this is such an eastern zone, it does mean that they can go towards this Sawtooth Mountain area, which we know G3 likes to play around a lot, since the Stone Shaper plays that can work out really well. But luckily, Darkbreaker's not shy of the Stone Shaper themselves, so they can definitely go in, and this looks like a third-party opportunity. Already no shields and flashes coming out for this player, and that's a very low health pool. I think Darkbreakers is just going to wind shear this one out. Maybe, no, it's going to be a Shockwave. That's going to be Unbundex 12 taken out, and that's another player they're chasing down. And this might be their teammate, it might be another team. No, it is definitely their teammate. Winziger Pipiman taken out by the Darkbreakers. That's 2 exiles on the board, and it's another few points that they can take with them into this round. 19 players in the zone in the game, and it's been a while since we've seen other exiles happen. It's actually dying down a little bit. We have late mid-game coming out until we get those later zones. But as I say that, of course, all of a sudden we get another 4 exiles on the board. G3 takes down 2, and Sonic Panda and Lego Boob also managing to get 2 for themselves. It's another 4 gone. The Darkbreakers and Majin are chasing down more exiles. They see that exile feed. They know they need to catch up. They know they need to keep it consistently going. But right now, they're just not running into enough players. It of course changes right now as they're arriving to that Sawtooth Mountain position, and they are split up so heavily. Look at that, Majin is so far away from the Darkbreakers. They cannot do this on their own, and that means the Darkbreakers has to find a way to get back to their teammate. They have to find a way to fight together again. So they're both soft resetting here, and again, they have to rotate around this mountain, and the more they rotate, the further away they get from each other. I think Majin is trying to go through the low ground on the other side of this entire ridge, and Sawtooth Mountain is, of course, a very long ridge that they can walk around. Meanwhile, Wondervel is still in this round 2. They are getting some exiles as well, going after another player with the fireballs flying. Nice movement to chase this down. The Boulder Falls are coming in, so it doesn't look like they're alone. This is not just the 2v1. This is definitely at least 2 or 3 squads extra here next to that two of them. And that's what you love to see, because now they can reset and they can join this fight and get some more damage, get some more exiles in.
Yeah, and this is, definitely in terms of scoring, we're starting to see Lavelle and Wonderful get pretty consistent. So you have to imagine that they're doing really well in the standings. But it has been SK versus G3, back to back, game after game, just seeing who can put themselves further. And look at this, Wonderful trying to come up behind this enemy player, not going to quite connect with that one. But these teams have to get a little bit more aggressive, like we've said here on the back half of the qualifier. This is going to be that game that really starts to solidify some of the points and so much damage so quickly. That's G3 Chaos and Megaverse getting very aggressive onto Wonderful. Now it's going to leave Lavelle in a bit of a tough situation. He's going to have to see if he can keep some of those points, for himself, if he can stay alive, if he might be able to circle back around. And as for SK, we did see that they were, split up a little bit, but they'll probably be able to find themselves back to each other. We'll see how that comes to fruition. That's Autrix. Autrix comes out of nowhere and finishes off Wonderful. I'm not even sure that was definitely not expected on, not what I was expecting, but Josh isn't going to be here to back him up, hopefully here in just a second. Autrix taking quite a bit of damage, his back's against the wall, and, he's doing what he can to stay alive. He might have to just see if he can put a little bit more space, but no, there's no such thing as putting space between Megaverse. He's going to be rocking that runic dexterity, spring step. He's got all of the mobility in the world, and that's going to be a sure exile coming out in the hands of Megaverse onto Autrix. Josh finds himself in a similar situation as Lavelle, has to just stay alive if he can, keep himself healthy, and we're still seeing that Vital Stone. G3 Chaos going to be in that thirsty position, doing what he can at long range for this G3 squad, while Megaverse has that trap card in the pocket.
Did you get yourself?
Yeah, Megaverse with that trap card. Always something you have to be careful about if you play against them. But I think everyone is kind of knows by now that they're in the Vital Stone. Even if they're watching the stream potentially, or for any other reason, I think most players are aware right now that Megaverse is running that Vital Stone. But what's really the counter against Vital Stone? There isn't really a counter, because either you pop it and it activates and then you have to just do more damage, or it doesn't activate because you lost the fight. So it's not really something to there's nothing you to do against it. The only thing you have to be aware of is that you don't disrupt them straight away the first time you get them. But that's literally about it. So we'll see if anyone tries to actually do something against it. But it's not really a counter you can have against it. It's not like you can say, oh, they have thirsty, we have to be more on top of them trying to heal mid fight. You have to be more aware of that. It's nothing like what else? Yeah, not like a fortitude where you have to proc the fortitude before you start doing the big damage. It's really one of those. It just happens. You just have to know that it happens, but no extra planning necessary, I'd say. We're gonna be seeing the Darkbreakers and Majin under a bit of pressure. Shield being taken out from Majin, but they are still able to retreat and actually reset a little bit. And with both running up thirsty, they are gonna be able to heal up together as a unit. Majin and Darkbreakers going after some more here, going straight into this in this area right here, chasing this other team down that are now behind the rocks, and it looks like they're in a big health advantage at the moment. They're able to do a lot of damage with the Stone Shaper. Maybe throw a boulder, some wind shears in there, and Darkbreakers is doing a lot of damage right now. Nice lightning strike, the storm is out, and that is going to be a tough one to get back from. No shield on either of those players right now. 10 players in the lobby. It's going to be G3 still in the exile feed though, and SK keeps seeing that. Like, they know, they feel that pressure. They know they need to get some value out of these fights, and they cannot keep them going on for this long. But it's just impossible when your enemies keep running away from you.
Yeah, I completely agree. And I mean, just watching Darkbreaker's the aggression that comes out from him, he's definitely constantly in pursuit of more damage, constantly looking for potential exiles, and really, I mean, showing the strength of Wind offhand, for the people that do use it. Not that we were downplaying it earlier. It is definitely strong, especially you pair that with Focus Mana Fervor. So much damage potential coming out from Darkbreakers, and he's always in that chase position. Even if he's just chipping at someone, it doesn't have to necessarily guarantee a disruption. He's getting damage points for him and his team. So Darkbreakers and Majin take a bit of damage there. They are going to go ahead and back up. I believe both of them, if I'm not wrong, are running this Focus Mana Fervor Thirsty. Very strong builds for both Stone Shaper and Conduit, so they have that fast reset potential. They have that Thirsty that can 50% heal for their allies. So lots of reset potential individually, but also as a team as well. So 10 players left alive. You do see that new zone on the map. They're going to have to make their move at some point. You do see that they're just taking it slow, hanging out behind this rock, but it's just about time for them to start moving now. Darkbreakers using that spring step, kind of hovering, chasing up on the backside of this enemy team. If they can get at least a little bit of pressure, you see those boulders flying forward, we'll see how they can move into this new zone.
We're looking for a disrupt, really, like a disrupt in the playstyle of some of the squads. Especially G3 has a very fluid playstyle that just keeps on rolling as whenever they wanted to. If you can disrupt that rhythm, you do see them getting into trouble. And SK has been able to exile and get them out of the game before, so they definitely are aware of the disruption. And seeing if more teams are going to be able to do that. Joshua actually disrupting Primer again after they've been picked up, and Joshua is going to be exiled himself by Little Hustle. This will still be Majin and Darkbreakers chasing down the next one. Lovell going down. Wonderful already had been exiled. It looks like this is going to be SK picking up some more. Well, hopefully some more. It's going to be a Little Hustle taken down, and Brimer also being exiled finally as a result. But this would be the G3 and SK. There's the Vital Stone. Megaverse disrupted. Now they're going to go for the actual disrupt. The immunity fades, and there is the final opportunity to actually get it. But Majin doesn't let that go over them, and it's actually Darkbreakers and Majin that go down first. Chaos will get disrupted, so it's just Megaverse versus 2. Arnando and Pro Gamer. We saw them do well in the last round. They got a lot of exiles, and they're likely going to win this one because Megaverse, no Vital Stone, half HP, barely any shields on him. This is not going to be an easy one to get out of, and that's at least a very nice tracking. The lightning bolts come out, and that is the win for them. Arnando and Pro Gamer definitely doing a lot better on the EU side. It's almost impossible to say they're not from the region, but maybe they're good players on high ping. I don't know. Maybe we can kind of confirm on that because I think they are. I think they're just European.
Mana Clash, I have to say, if it wasn't for the Vital Stone, G3 would have gotten third place. But because of the Vital Stone, they actually edge out second place over their second and first place competitor, SK. So I'm not here to say Vital Stone's meta. It's not my job. But I'm just stating the facts. They got more points because of Vital Stone than they would have
twice now. Definitely twice. Yeah,
absolutely.
Because it happened in the first game too, where Megaverse doesn't get disrupted, and then it takes over onto Majin, I think it was. Then they win the game because of it. So that Vital Stone, like I said, you can get away with very risky situations, and it does edge you out. It gives you some advantages here and there. It's situational, but it does add up in the scores in the end.
I mean, but between those two teams specifically, that's where it matters the most. Like
twice now.
It's not that he just got Vital Stoned over a different team, whatever. If SK was already out, it doesn't matter. But it was over SK specifically that they actually pull more points. So we'll see how that ends up affecting the first place, second place,
it's
final.
So close between them right now.
Oh. Yeah, but that was game number 5, which means that for some teams, that is their standings. Like they're probably not going to have a great game 6. I'm not wishing ill on them, of course, but some teams probably won't have a great game 6. It'll probably be their throwaway game. Regardless, we're going to be moving into the last game in just a bit. It's been a battle between G3, SK, but for 3rd through 5th, I'm just not super confident. I think I know about one team that's probably sitting pretty comfortable in there. We'll have to wait and see where all these final standings, land. But this is the last game for any team that's even close. If you're sitting in 6th place, you got to make a play. You got to make it happen. So we're going to see a little bit of maybe a potential wild game coming up because this is where it's really all left on the line.
I want to see what's happening with Arnando and Pro Gamer because that's really, they've been making such a stride in these last two games that they could potentially put themselves back in that top five. It's possible. Like it's a long shot, but still possible. Um, but when I look at like the scores that are right there, because most of it has been input for this round, like we're missing like a few scores of the top three teams or something. Um, it is definitely looking like indeed. So SK and G3 are just the numbers one and two. Like there is nothing
Yeah,
that can really
absolutely.
stop that from happening. There's a pretty big gap between them and the number three. Um, but the numbers three, four, five, they're relatively close together. Especially at number five is still a spot that's very open. There's a lot of teams that are close to that. Right now, number five is IDK. Who's carrying who is only like 30, 40 points behind them. Um, and then we kind of have to wait. Oh yeah, yeah. So who's carrying who is close behind them? Dixon Butter still has a chance depending on what the throw game away games are going to be. We have Dino Nuggies actually being quite close, Pandemonium and and
Dude,
what's up,
it
Crashy?
just took me 5 games to realize what that team name means.
Ah, fair. That's
Oh
okay.
man.
That's okay. But yeah, Royal Ravens and Arnando and Philip, we still don't have their score from that last game, but it definitely has to be a decent score. I think with that score, they're actually quite close in the running as well for fifth place potentially. So yeah, there's probably going to be a shuffle or two, or at least there's potential for a shuffle or two after this last game. The top four does seem solidified enough, I'd say, and we'll see what that means for number five. But qualifiers almost over. One more game to go, Crashy, and it's maybe not a race to the end, but it's definitely not done and dusted so far.
Yeah, no, it's not done and dusted yet. We do have that final game that's going to be coming up in just a minute. And like I said, sixth place team or any team that, even if they're paying attention to their own scores, if they know what their scores are, any team that even thinks that they're close, even if you're seventh place team, this could be the game.
Mhm.
It might not be, but it could be, and that's realistically, the possibility that's in front of us. That
Yeah.
said, I have to say, I've been seeing something out of Lovell and Darkbreakers that I wanted to break down. Obviously, we were in that end game, but I want to bring it up because I think it's so interesting. We have a conduit in that of Majin. Did I say Lavelle? I meant to say Majin. We have Darkbreakers on Majin. We have conduit coming from Majin. We have Darkbreakers on Stone Shaper with Offhand Wind. But one thing that happens pretty often, I've seen it so many times that I wonder if it's coordinated. I'd love to get a second word from them, but Darkbreakers will throw out his tornado at long range. He doesn't really need it for anything. He's not comboing it with anything specifically himself within his own kit. He'll throw it out. He'll usually throw a boulder on top of it or in its direction. But
Mhm.
Lovell will light it up with lightning every single time. And at range, that's shocking anybody that's not running Harmony. And let's be honest, Mana Class, Harmony is
No one's running
not
Harmony.
not
No one's
something that
running
we've seen
Harmony.
all day. So in those big team fights, the zone's starting to close down on itself. Majin and Darkbreakers are getting major value out of their combination of gauntlets together. And that's really, really interesting to see.
Yeah, definitely. We are getting the actual final scores in for the last round. It's actually been confirmed now. The only ones who haven't got a score put in are Gold Sloth, but I don't think they were in contention for a lot in the first place anymore. They were at 11 before this, so not counting it likely. But indeed, yeah. So the numbers one, two through five are the same as we already reported them. Number six, seven, and eight are indeed who's carrying who, Dino Nuggies and Royal Ravens. They're all within about 100, 200 points from number five. So again, depending on the throwaway game, we'll see what happens with this game six. There's still a lot of potential. And with the way that Royal Ravens have been playing after this halftime, they're in an okay position, or at least a believable position to potentially pull this one back. So I'm definitely looking forward to it. I'm not saying I'm rooting for my EU boys. Definitely not saying that. Definitely not being partial here, Crashy. But I mean, how cool would it be to see such a comeback happen?
I mean, it's interesting. There's potential there. And speaking of interesting, I think we just got word we're going to be jumping into game number 6. You got listen. When the doctor speaks, when
Gotta
Doctor Nuts
listen.
speaks, you gotta listen. So we're going to be jumping
Gotta
into game
listen
number 6, the final game of the day, and we'll see what's happening, man. There's a little bit of room for shakeups. That's kind of how it feels. A
for
little bit of
sure.
Yeah, a little bit of room for wiggle room. So we'll see what happens.
Yeah.
But yeah, game number 6 coming
I'm
up.
curious to
any
see
second,
who
gonna
we're
be
getting on
dropping in.
board with to start off with, because we had very different like starters in terms of who we were spectating first. And a lot of the time we just get a team that's not even in the qualifier, which it's possible. It's not. There's about 6 squads every game that aren't with the tournament, but it doesn't mean they're any less fun to look at a lot of the time. But we do get the Wondervel squad here on our first spectator. We do already look at the Exile feed. Breimer, Glob, Ross, Finzer. They're all starting off in a at least a exiling manner. Of course, say 2 players actually already being exiled legitimately. The other 2 are spectators, so they don't count. As much as we love them, we do acknowledge they exist, but they just don't count for the scorecard here, because they excel themselves. But
Well,
wonderful and
I was gonna
and
say
lawful.
I love Dr. Nut. I don't know about Strofe.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, Cor, we do mute him every time. I don't know what that is, but yeah, we do see wonderful and Lovell consistently dropping around this. Wind Shrine is of course where the Wind Gauntlet drops, and they do actually already get an epic Stone Gauntlet too. That's going to be wonderful, running with a Stone Shaper and a very happy purple one at that. Yeah, early game loot looking pretty good for these 2 right now, and they even get some runes to go along with it. Elder Gold and Green Sloth, we talked about it before, they aren't in a great position to really get that much out of this qualifier anymore, but at least some practice. But then that practice gets disrupted by Megaverse, as Megaverse gets a double right there. That's the first 2 exiles in for G3, and of course a good start for them. I don't know what the point difference between the numbers 1 and 2 right now is. I think the throwaway game also makes a lot of difference for either of them. And we're going to see that after this game. But right now, G3 starting off strong as Saint Crunchy exiles themselves.
Yeah, I mean, I think that if you know this team and where they look like to land specifically, if you've been able to pay attention or just pull a little bit of information, then you know that, Stone Tooth, definitely the location that they're looking to drop at with Megaverse, taking control of that mountain with that Stone Shaper. But also, Ruby is not safe to the push from G3. They know they need points. They know they need exiles, disruptions, damage, and this is the easiest place to get to. That said, we're going to be looking around the map. We might have a couple of lobby teams that might be fighting, but that's going to be Sansa, and who else am I looking for in the back of my head that's going to be playing with him? It's PMD Birdman, I believe, if I can remember correctly. So this is going to be PMD, probably grabbing themselves a little bit of points. Not sure where they're sitting in the standings, but hey, any little bit helps. Even if, listen, you come out to a qualifier, maybe it's your first event, or maybe not your first event, but you're just trying to improve and do the best that you can. It's going to be Birdman and Sansa, like I said, picking up themselves a couple kills. Put yourself as high in the standings as you can. Use it as a benchmark for yourself. So you may not make top 5, but you can definitely come out, have a good time, and look to improve. So a little bit of a random words of encouragement for anybody thinking about jumping into the Element games, myself included, because I have a qualifier coming up and I'm never done it in Spellbreak yet. So we'll see what happens as we jump over to Indubitably Nasty, rocking that Wolf's Blood, definitely by design, right? That's not something that he's gonna get rid of course not.
But definitely not. I mean, that's not going to be an accidental pickup there. But I would like to see what this is going to be leading into. Maybe they actually see some enemies coming, and it does look like they at least have something going on here. Get the extra rune charge in from the lightning strike. You get that for free, of course, when you play the conduit class. Extra rune charge whenever you use your sorcery, so that will be a nice one that gets on. And they switch over to that shadow step rune. So the Wolf's Blood, apparently not on purpose, just for having a rune in the first place, I guess. Wonderful and Lovell have apparently been in a bit of a skirmish, and this is going to continue right here. But unfortunately for Slammerox, you didn't want to try and get some damage in on the level, because Wonderful doesn't like it when you mess with their date for Valentine's Day. Even if it is a competitive one, still choose to play together. It's a wonderful thing to happen in the first place. Now, when we look at the Exile feed, Darkbreakers has been doing some work. Also got 2 on the board for them, so they're trying to keep up with G3, maybe even get ahead of them. And the zone is closing, so Wonderful is trying to make their way over to that new safe zone, away from the Spellstorm. Has the double dash rune, of course, still in the pocket with that runic fluency, and that mobility is going to get them far over this cliff, far over this canyon. And Lovell is trying to follow suit, but it does seem like Lovell's going to be a bit quicker. They do see a rift over there. They're close enough; they don't have to take it.
I was gonna say, one could say that it is lovely how wonderful this duo is doing on Valentine's Day.
I was on purposely not trying to not do it, but whatever.
Lovely how wonderful.
I guess that's where we're at right now.
they're doing on Valentine's Day as a duo, as a couple. You love to see it. That said, not doing so wonderful right now as they are going to be running into SK Darkbreakers. Lavelle, you know, he's hanging out in the storm. He's not going to be able to get there. He takes the portal, he takes the rift, but Wonderful goes down.
That's Darkbreakers following up on that one. Majin
He didn't like my joke
as well. I guess not. I mean, Darkbreakers is like, well, I hate these jokes. Get them out of the round so we don't have to hear them anymore. And it's fair. You know, I can get on board with that sometimes. We're going to be seeing Majin and Darkbreakers trying to follow up on some more to get Power Ham out of the game. And I don't know about you, Power Ham sounds like a very, very healthy protein snack. Going to be seeing I mean, obviously, Wonderful and Level were kind of secured in their qualification already, so it's not the worst thing in the world if they get out now. It's just, you know, extra practice for them at this stage. We're really looking forward to other teams of IDK, who's carrying who, and Royal Ravens, and even Dino Nuggy still, because they still have a chance. And even Dixon Butter, Steel Mets, and Doobly Nasty. So a lot of those going out would potentially mess up the standings a little bit. Haven't seen much of those in the feed so far, but that's SYG Oxio taken down by G3 Chaos. That's a disrupt happening as Darkbreakers tries to go on another duo. This is going to be a 2v2 clean fight in the open. Not a lot of cover, not a lot of high ground, not a lot of places to maneuver around in. A lot of shadow steps being used though. This is going to be a few more hits. That's Megaverse. No, sorry, that's other Roy Mustard being disrupted. Megaverse does get exiled. So that's Messemer. I think that's how you pronounce that. 21 being taken out. It's a double kill for SK again. But yeah, G3 missing half their team right now. SYG is fighting another squad at the moment. Let's see who they can actually take out with this one, as AMV is taking a lot of damage. Almost gets shocked out of the sky. Will actually not be able to reciprocate so far. Has to go for the stone skin, but doesn't get enough for that. Rykoda takes them out. That's going to be Oxio trying to claw this one back. Has plenty of health and shields to do it with. And it's going to be gatekeeping them, but this is going to be a Thirst Exile that comes out. Of course, they are also running Thirsty, so AMV's Thirsty now gets stolen into an exile. Will be Fluffin' Nudes taking that one, and Fluffin' Nudes has been doing decently as well in these games, fairly consistently, just consistently not incredibly high scoring. It's been high, but not to the moment where you really have that pop-off game. So we still have to see that from them. Might be this game, could be this game. Don't know if it will change anything in their eventual standings. But there we see Insomniac Panda and Lego Boo being under a lot of pressure. That's one down already. Of course, it's going to be courtesy of Grimer, as Insomniac Panda tries to run around, maybe get back to their team in order to actually get them up. And it does look like they might get the opportunity for it. No one's really looking at that. But there go the wind shears from the back and the fireball. Insomniac Panda is not going to be happy about that one. Missing almost all their health. Definitely no shields left in that one. Behind the firewall, maybe there will be an opportunity. But it looks like Insomniac Panda is in with too much. Programmer 69 takes them out. They're still in the race. There is the Royal Ravens trying to still clutch maybe that spot out, that number 5 spot that they're so coveting to qualify for these finals that we're going to have in just a short amount of time. Not today, but definitely soon. We'll see if Brimer and a little hustle can also solidify their place.
Yeah, absolutely. And, you know, one thing to note, and this may not be on purpose, but Brimer is embracing the power of the Darkbreakers, has put that wind offhand into the Stone Shaper build, his own version of the build, you know, rocking that 2-3-1, the Runic Fervor, you know, kind of speed build with Escapist. So a lot of mobility, a lot of, you know, potential spam, whether it be shockwaves or wind spam, going to be coming out. So we're going to see Brimer and Lil Hustle. They're going to be looking to get a bit aggressive here, as again, this is another one of those teams that wants to make sure that they can get as many points as possible. A little bit of a Dragonfire combo coming out in the way of Brimers. He's taking a little bit of damage, going to back up now. Him and his teammate Lil Hustle will reset a bit. 15 players left alive in total, and you know, just as you know, you were commentating that last section, PMD goes down at the hands of SK, so that's another couple of exiles going, you know, into the standings of SK, and it's going to be a fight for first place. Autrix finds a disruption onto Fluffin' Nudes, so we're going to be seeing if we can jump over in that direction. Josh is very low himself. We'll have to see if there's any potential for a turnaround in this fight, but it does not look like it. Josh is going to take a little bit of time, use this clear space that he has to get some of these heals off. He doesn't have that thirsty, but he finds himself some big health potions. Some large health potions are going to be able to tip him over the edge. Now he's completely healed up. Darkbreaker's finding a disruption in the kill feed, and now it looks like Josh and Autrix just trying to get some more points for themselves on top of what they have already earned this game. So see a little bit of a chase here. Looks like Autrix might be following up right on that backside. They did find themselves a disruption a bit ago. I do think that they confirmed that. It looks like that was the case at some point. We'll see as they're rotating. They're grabbing themselves some high ground, getting a little bit comfortable.
Yeah, what we do see this round a lot are these thirst XLs, the actual, the manual XLs, as we like to call them. But Joshua and Autrix are in that number 5 spot right now. They really need their points to solidify that number 5 spot before someone else overtakes them. And at this rate, I think they probably have secured it just by still being alive, by having these XLs come out. But it's still close. It's still not a guarantee. As Darkbreakers takes down Chaos, that's G3 out of this round. And that might actually mean that with this, SK can put themselves in that first place, because that's 3 games where G3 has been exiled relatively early, and SK definitely doesn't have as many of those. Going to be seeing if Joshua and Autrix are going to be able to get some more exiles out of this, but it doesn't look like it. Raikoda wants to get on top of that one and make sure that Joshua at least has nothing to do this round anymore. It's going to be a 2v1 situation to close that out as Arnando gets another exile on the board. The Royal Ravens really making a run for this one. Maybe they still can do enough on this EU side of things as Raikoda finishes off Autrix. So that is IDK no longer having any power over what happens this round. And maybe that will not be enough. Maybe they cannot solidify their position just by going out this relatively early. You're going to be seeing what Raikoda and Fluff and Nudes are going to be able to do as Grimer takes down Raikoda, and Fluff and Nudes has to do it all on their own. So far, it has been mostly Raikoda getting a lot of the exiles. Fluff and Nudes seems to have been the support player and is definitely not getting supported right now. Can't do enough to support themselves at least. Lil Hustle and Grimer going to try and finish out this day with another game win, because they've already had one. And I think they had one at least. And Darkbreakers and Majin going for the same goal at least. G3's out, so that opening is there. But SK is still forced to be reckoned with. As you see right here, that's Arnando and Pro Gamer taken out. No more scores for the Royal Ravens, and I don't think they're going to be qualifying with that. It's just probably not going to be enough. But the Darkbreakers and Majin might still be able to take that number 1 spot away. Like I said, every exile, every position they go up is all points they're gaining over G3. They're no longer in the game. The Darkbreakers and Majin definitely have it in them to take down a few more. 5 players in the lobby. That's 2.5. That's 1.5 squad next to them. And, well, at least Majin is taking a lot of damage right there. That was a huge burst coming out. Darkbreaker's trying to follow up on an exile over here on a disrupt. Doesn't look like they're going to get it straight away, but Majin is at least able to heal up a little bit on the side of things. Darkbreaker's trying to get some more stone skin up, make sure they reset or semi-reset, as Majin is, again, under so much pressure, maybe almost in the storm, actually almost getting disrupted themselves, but is again able to just run away to safety and reset. Still 5 players in the lobby. That means there's a third-party opportunity right here as 2 players are taken out. Actually, Lil Hustle and Brimer are taken out by Lovell. Lovell on his own, able to solidify this position. That's going to be 2nd place for them. 1st place, the Darkbreakers and Majin, and it would not surprise me to take away 1st place overall.
Yeah, that was, I mean, I have to say it, that was a very, very big game. You know, the elimination of G3 in that last one really opened the door. And not only did it open the door, but I feel like Majin and Darkbreakers really stepped on the gas. They went really aggressive. They were getting every exile in their path, and you know, definitely a pretty solid game. That said, Brimer, Lil Hustle, they kept themselves consistent. I definitely expect to see them in that top 5 position as well, but there could be a little bit of a point shakeup that we'll have to wait and see. But the games are done. 6 games in the book, and 5 will be scored. So yeah, we did it. Qualifier 2, the first one that's streamed of the Duo Cash Cup. Now that we got some things figured out, we got this nice you know, overlay, all these new designs. So definitely shout out to our team over at Element, from, again, everybody involved, including you guys, the viewers, and the players that play. We definitely do appreciate it. So you know, we love to make these things happen. So that said, we're gonna let the scores trickle in. We're going to let some calculations happen. We're going to see what teams are in the top 5. But, you know, on the day, we got to see which of the 2 teams walks away with that 1st place finish.
I mean, one thing I can say, I do think Silent Kill got the score record for this game out. Because G3's highest score in this entire day was, I think, 473. They got 555 for this singular game. So they definitely got the score record, at least from those 2 teams. And I think that's going to be for overall as well. Congrats at least on Silent Kill getting that one. SK being very adamant about that one, saying, you know what, if we're going to go out in the last game, we're going to go out with a blow. And they definitely blew themselves all the way up to that 1st place position. I almost have no doubt about that anymore. But scores are still being tallied, so we don't quite know just yet. Although I think G3 scores is in as well. We can indeed see that SK at least got more points than them, so that is going to be SK taking down number one, G3 number two. Number three are Galaxy tiered with Lil Hustle and Brimer. Number four, Wonder Vel are definitely not going to be overtaken. And in a turn of events, it's possible that we actually have IDK being bopped out of this one, but I don't think their last score has been coming in yet. So we still have to wait. I'm not going to call it early. It's going to be close, but no cigar just yet for anybody.
Yeah, and we'll get that final confirmation. We'll get the nice, beautiful graphic up on the screen. But
Mm-hmm.
yeah, it's going to be interesting. We'll have to see where everything lies, and regardless, it's just fun presentation, right? To be able to show it off
Oh, for sure.
and to congratulate the teams on making it to the finals. But that's one more qualifier in the books. We'll be moving into qualifier 3 next weekend. And I believe is it? Do we have 3 qualifiers? I think that sounds
With
right to
three
me. Yeah,
qualifiers.
So
Yeah, the last
so
one is
third
number
and third and
three. So
final qualifier. And
yeah,
I'm trying to remember
5
who's
teams per.
casting that one. I'm not sure who's casting that one. I know
I can
I'm
look it
not
up
on
for
it.
you right now. I'm also not
Nice.
on it because it's on a Saturday, and not doing Saturdays this time around. But I'm
Yeah,
gonna
well,
see.
I'm excited about it because I'm gonna do my best. I want to see
You're
if
gonna play
Crashy
it.
can. I'm
Yeah.
gonna see if I can make a finals. That's the goal. That's my personal goal ahead of me. Is I want to see if I can make a finals. But
All right.
there's some good teams in there. Trust me, I've been paying attention. I've been paying attention to my qualifier. But
For sure,
nonetheless, I
for sure,
just
for sure. So next week you're gonna have Plays and Timmy do it. Of course, they were gonna be on
nice.
yesterday. We decided not to stream that one just to make
Yeah.
sure that the lobbies that we're doing actually were working. But they're gonna get the redo on the next week on the 20th. So that'll be a Saturday, and then on Sunday the 21st, we won't have the finals. The finals will be on the 28th of February, so that's the Sunday after. But there will be potentially other things happening in the meantime. So, because we always have more things in the books. That being said, though, right now all we're waiting for is that last score confirmation. Who has actually won this? Who is becoming 2, 3, 4, and 5? Who is going to be going on to those finals that we're going to have on the 28th again of February? And I think we're gonna get the scores in any time. Just waiting for them to be put in on our production side. But Crashy, what's been one of the things that you've been seeing today? You're like, yeah, I was not expecting this, but it's cool that it happened.
I mean, I think we could definitely lean into the discussion about Vital Stone, right? Like, and
Oh
I think
yeah,
I think we've talked about that at least enough to say
at
that, like,
length.
I
Yeah.
don't necessarily think that's like a full on meta move, but it would be unfair to the design of Vital Stone in correlation to the format of our tournament not to at least explain that there was value earned there. Like, so I think I'll leave it at that. But another thing I could say, something that I saw. I don't know. I like to see. I don't know. I'm just trying to think of what did I see that I wasn't expecting. I don't feel like there was a ton. I feel like the current meta is kind of well discovered. Where we're coming towards the close of chapter 1, moving in towards chapter 3, chapter 2. What
Yeah.
counting is hard. Moving into chapter 2, and yeah, I think that people have definitely found their position in a pretty comfortable way in terms of the meta. I think that the classes that are strong are being represented well and being played in a strong way. And yeah, things are definitely going well.
Yeah, things are looking up in the world of Spellbreak. We're getting more and more fun plays. We're getting closer and closer results in tournaments, which means it's going to be more and more opportunity for that gap to be closed. I think trios is the one where we're still like, yeah, that's not really a gap closer just yet. But the other game modes have been very varying in results in terms of who's winning, who's doing well, new players that are coming in and doing good. It's for sure super exciting, at least for me. Um, that being said, though, we're getting close to getting all the scores in right now. We're getting at least the positioning of the teams. We're still waiting for the points to be input. I do see Galaxy tiered being on both 3 and 4, so that's probably not right. See who actually takes that spot on number 3 or 4. Um, but yeah, we're waiting for a little bit more. I'm sorry, guys, to just talk about a lot. But hey, if you want to know more about what happens at Element, if you want to know more about when things are happening, how you can sign up, that you can sign up, all of it can be found in the Discord, !Discord in the chat. It will also be on the top right of your screen every now and then, because we do, go through the YouTube donate and Discord commands. Even score commands, which you can also do in the Discord. You can find the scores that are all being put in, the full scores, so you might already know the results before we show them on stream. But yeah, it's a great place to be, and we're around there, Crashy. We both hang there. We do
A little bit,
things.
just sometimes, just
Sometimes,
sometimes.
every now and then, yeah. But at least we have to be in there because we do this. But it's not a punishment. Don't get me wrong. We'll see. We'll see you hopefully there for scrims, for tournaments, for anything you really want to do. Um, and yeah, you might see your team names or your player names on the screen when you participate. It's always exciting. So you might be able to score some clips with people yelling about your plays. Who knows?
Yeah, who knows? Indeed. That said, we're still waiting for the scores to trickle in to let us know who the winner of the day is. The top 5 teams that will be moving themselves into that the finals that are going to be coming up. No big deal. But one more qualifier. We got 5 more teams that have to enter the fold. I wish I could remember. Maybe you have it up. I don't have it with me. But the 5 teams that have already entered the finals from week 1 qualifier. I know obviously
I
Death and
I
T-Fall
think
did.
I can find it.
Yeah, I was gonna say I'm not gonna scour around and then waste a bunch of time, but yeah, so we definitely know that Death and T-Fall are gonna be in the finals. We have another 5 teams that are gonna be joining them with the 4 additional teams from week 1, and then we'll be moving toward that last qualifier, which is gonna be February 20th. So definitely make sure that you're around in about a week, a little less than a week, 6 days from now. We'll be seeing what teams out of that qualifier can join the other 10, making a total of 15 teams to hit the Duo Cash Cup qualifiers or the Duo Cash Cup finals. So we'll be keeping you guys updated on all the news, the scores
As
and
much as
things
we
in
can.
just a minute. Yeah, as much as we can in just a minute. We're going to be jumping over to that, and yeah, looking forward to it.
Yeah, so last week we had the winners that were Stev Bal _SB, Cold Levin, World Tier, Cashes, and so Casper and Matches, that was, I think. And next to Lino, this week, your top 5 is going to be. Drum roll, everybody in chat. Drum rolls. There we go. Oh, it's SK on top. As we were expecting, 910 points. So still 180-point difference with the number 2, which is D3-1. We're seeing the Pepega Mancers, number 1,227 points. That's a big gap, 500 points between them and the number 2. Relatively close with numbers 3, 4, and 5, though. Galaxy tiered and who's carrying who coming in. And they actually bumped out IDK. IDK was in the top 5 before, but didn't perform well enough in that last game, or their drop away game was too much of a difference in order to get to number 6. Royal Ravens, valiant effort trying to get back into the EU side of things, but ended up on number 7. Then we have Dixon, Butter, Dino Nuggies, and Bert Sansa closing out the top 10 over here. For those who are a bit confused, being like, hey, who are the Pepega Mancers? That was what we've been referring to as Wondervel. They were Wonderful and Lovell coming in together. So yeah, they apparently gave up a different name than we actually ended up with. So there you go. That's the Pepega Mancers. And 1 or 2 exiles had been added onto their score because of zone exiles and things like that. We can clarify that whenever we want. But this is your scoring. This is your top 10.
Yeah. Top 10, we'll be moving over to some stats. And I was going to say, third place for Pepega Mancers, not too surprising. Obviously that's going to be the new unreleased class, the Pepega Mancer with the Pepega gauntlet. So we'll be seeing that in chapter 2. But nonetheless, we have some crazy scores here. We got some big totals. What are you seeing, man, in class? Anything you want to note here on this nice, beautiful spreadsheet?
I don't know. I think you can talk about the highest scored game, of course, which we already knew was going to be for SK. But you can also see that our highest single damage, total exiles, average exiles, all of that is, of course, on their side of things, and being like the highest. That being said, though, Dino Nug is actually getting the highest single exile per game. It's very interesting to see that they got that. 14, so to speak, and they did actually not even manage to qualify. So that's unfortunate. Means that they actually were able to do well in one game, but not well enough in all the other games to really solidify that. And the interesting part about it as well is, even though they got 14 exiles in that game, they only got 267 points, which is not a lot. They did a lot. They didn't do a lot of damage there, and that's unfortunate because you think for 14 exiles you do a lot of damage. Well, they didn't. So there was a lot of third partying going on there, a lot of last hit potential coming out from them. And as cool as that can be, that kind of feels like there's something going wrong with that scoring for them, the way they play the game. So maybe they need to figure that out. Maybe they can go do their stats and see what do we do, how do we play. But that's really the standout for me. 14 exiles and not being able to qualify kind of feels like I would say a waste, but it kind of feels like a problem.
Yeah, definitely so. I mean, and like I said, using this event, carrying your performance all the way through the final six game, doing the best you can, gives you kind of a kickoff point to gauge how you're doing, what you can work on, and things of that nature. So you can see the exile breakdown, the damage breakdown, and so much damage. 22% of the overall damage coming from SK, which is just, I mean, that's a phenomenal amount of damage. G3, grabbing themselves just shy of 22% as well. So almost half the damage in the game coming out from two teams, and that's why they had such a dominating lead at the very top. And same thing, you can see that exile count: 42 from SK and 41 from G3. So some big numbers out there. A lot of other teams that are very close. So definitely, keep up that work, keep coming up into these events, showing up to the scrims, and working on that teamwork, working on that play. So GG's to everybody that was involved. I think that this was a very phenomenal showcasing of our new graphics, our new setup that we have going on here. We see this final graph. I believe this is going to be that last one. You do see some big spikes for Darkbreakers, Majin, Megaverse, and Chaos, of course. And then, the other teams that qualified, you can definitely see them on the board. And we got Brimer, Lil Hustle, definitely doing their thing as well. So some pretty good total damage. And I love these charts, man. I'm not always the smartest person in the world to know how to read them, but they're cool, and I'm sure that y'all can put some some smart eyes on top of them.
Yeah, we're definitely looking forward to it. I think the 14 exiles, we're getting that in chat right now. There was apparently some sort of typo going on their scoring. Sorry about that, guys. Because it was already the damage numbers
No.
weren't adding up. Like, it was a bit odd to
Listen.
me. I was like,
Listen,
eh.
Insomniac Panda's just so good that the scores can't keep up. It's just as
I
simple
know,
as that.
right? There's that
But
one damage tap every single time. Yeah, because they only did like 300 damage in total, and 14 exiles with only 300 damage total. Kind of, it's almost impossible to do. Like, you really
No,
need to get
listen,
that
think about it. He used the noodle.
one lightning bolt, right? One lightning bolt
Yeah,
per
there you go.
exile, and then you kind of get there. But it's still very hard to make that happen 14 times. But yeah, no, it's definitely still been a great qualifier. I've seen a lot of great plays come out. A lot of you wonderful people in chat, of course, and it's all about the players and the teams in the end. So we hope you support them, and you
Are
give
they
us more of the opportunity to show them.
lovely,
No.
wonderful people
They
in
didn't
chat?
win. They didn't win. You can't do that, Crashy. Only if they
Happy
win.
Valentine's to all you
For
lovely
sure,
people
for
and
sure.
wonderful people in chat.
Okay, well, with that, I'm gonna have Crashy throw his puns towards other people that might actually care, and we're gonna set you over to the post game screen. Enjoy. Maybe if you're only tuning in later, the VOD will be available. Don't worry, you can always watch it back, and otherwise come back during the week for screen scrims, and next weekend, of course, for Qualifier number 3 of the Element Duos, the last one that we're doing. For now, though, I've been Man of Class here with the lovely Crashy, and we'll see you guys in the next one.